My fiancé is angry with me after I said no to her sleeping with other guys, as she is almost desperate in wanting to swing with her friends, if you know what I mean, and is even calling me insecure when I said no, putting me in a situation that I never even imagined was possible, because now I just don't know what to do. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, the only show where your significant other can betray you literally overnight, because the original poster's fiancé is doing just that. This is some crazy behavior. So subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't already. Have a seat, strap in for this one because it gets incredibly spicy. Let's get started. Okay, guys, I'm a mess right now. My chest feels tight and I can barely eat. To start things off, I've been with my fiancé ever since high school, and we started dating right after she went to university. And now, all these years later, we've been together for almost 10 years. She has been my whole world. Things between us have always been good, and I was completely happy. And honestly, I thought we were set for life. But a few weeks ago, she suddenly suggested swinging with one of her close friend couples. And this is people that we actually know. And when she said this, I felt sick to my stomach and I told her no immediately. Like, the whole idea just makes me feel like I can't breathe, and I don't want anything like that at all. And just to step in as the narrator here, if you don't know what swinging is, it's basically like extracurricular sleeping together. Like, that's the best way I know how to put it. So this is probably why the original poster is so upset about this. Anyways, back to the story. My girlfriend then got really angry and called me close-minded and controlling. Now she barely speaks to me unless she's bringing it up again. In fact, today she tried being gentle about it and suggested a softer version where we would just be in the same room. And I still said no. And it really feels like she's slowly trying to pressure me, and it's destroying me inside. Every time I refuse, she says that I'm just being insecure and that this isn't about replacing me. But I grew up in a house where I was never enough. My feelings were always ignored. And this situation is tearing open all these old wounds and making me feel worthless again. I'm starting to pull away because I don't know what else to do. I'm scared she'll resent me or cheat if I keep saying no, but saying yes would break me. I love her so much, but right now I feel lost, I feel scared, and I just don't feel good enough. So has anyone ever dealt with this before? Because I don't know what to do. Before we go any further, the original poster has some updates, and I definitely want to share these because these give some really big insights. Here's what he had to say. First off, I want to say thank you to all the people who bashed me and shared their own stories or even motivated me to do something. The amount of comments was insane, so I disappeared for a bit, and I just needed time to process it. But you know what? Something happened. While she was in the shower, I broke my own rules and I looked at her phone. This is the one time in my life I did this, and what I saw broke me. She had been texting her friends, which is the couple, and told them everything. All of my most private stuff. She wrote about how I'm insecure about my size, how I constantly need validation, and that's why I work so hard at the gym, and I've been doing that for years, and how she can't wait to finally have some fun time with the both of them. There were also some really mean things said about me in my childhood that cut really deep, and they're so bad that I just don't even want to repeat them here. So I made screenshots, I sent them to myself, and I got out of the house. I went straight to my female friend from work, which is the same person my fiancé never liked, by the way, all because we train together a lot. Because no, my fiancé never wanted to go to the gym with me. And right now I'm at her place. My friend is now telling me to get it together. She says either I go through with the partner swap thing to see if my fiancé even cares a little bit, or I just break up. She even offered that I can stay at her house until I find a place to rent. She keeps saying, vengeance or not, I should just end it and finally be myself because I have a much better life. My fiancé still thinks I'm just at the gym, so she doesn't actually suspect anything, but I'm slowly moving from self-pity and heartbreak into being really, really pissed off. Part of me actually wants to go through with this whole swinging thing just to watch her face when I walk out right afterwards. I know that's probably toxic, but I'm so hurt right now. And honestly, I just don't even know what I'm asking anymore because this all just makes me feel so lost and angry and just really stupid for trusting her for so long. The original poster actually has more of an update here and things get crazy, so strap in for this one. Okay, so I went back home acting completely normal so she wouldn't suspect anything, and I decided to ask her one question. I pulled her close, I tried to sound soft and a little nervous, and I asked her, baby, if I actually agreed to this, what would you want it to look like? Well, when I did this, the switch flipped instantly. Her whole face lit up. She got so excited, she was kissing me all over, she was hugging me tight, and even started describing exactly how she wanted it to go, who she wanted to do it with, the order, and everything. She was glowing, talking nonstop, like super enthusiastic about this. But not once did she ask if I was really okay with it, if I was comfortable with any of this, or how I was feeling in the first place. Instead, she just went full sunshine mode, and that was all the confirmation I needed. Now, you want to know what the funny thing is? Not even 15 minutes after I told her I agreed, the other girl texted me that she's super happy I changed my mind, and that she's wanted a taste of me ever since my fiancé first introduced us. My fiancé has now been walking around like a ray of of sunshine, acting way happier than when I proposed to her, and that hurt more than anything. And now I feel really stupid in this situation, and I just don't know what to do. Okay, dude, you had better break up with this lady. Like, this is some crazy behavior, dude. Think about it. She's pissed off that you're not letting her sleep with other people. Like, are you kidding me right now? And she's slowly, like, whittling away at your defenses until you say yes? Like, please tell me you're not gonna go through with this and be like, it's fine, I'll let you do this. Like, no, dude, grow a spine. Get out of there while you can. This is not okay. Because, dude, you're clearly not okay with this. Like, you're not consenting to this kind of activity. You don't think this is a good idea, and you're probably gonna be pissed off at your fiance probably forever. Like, I know I would be. Like, this would ruin my relationship with her. So truly, this is a giant red flag. And in my opinion, the fact that she even, like, I don't know, made fun of your childhood and said these terrible things about you, like, bro, it's pretty obvious that she doesn't like you anymore and she wants to sleep with other people. And that is completely unacceptable, and you don't deserve that in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. Am I the jerk for being upset with my boyfriend, as he doesn't want to let me go on a vacation abroad with my best friend, even though I'm paying for it myself and we are fully capable of doing so? Because right now I'm upset, I'm super pissed off, and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's currently happening. Okay, so for a bit of context, I have a best friend and we have been friends for 8 years, and it's always been our dream to go abroad together. It just sounds incredible to vacation as a duo, wake up for breakfast together, tan and take photos, etc. It honestly is something we've really wanted to do for a long time. Now, I told my boyfriend about this a month and a half ago, and of course, he immediately said he wasn't completely on board, but he also said that he needed to think about it and that it was a debatable topic. Basically, I kept talking and talking and talking to him about it, and eventually he stopped reacting badly and would just listen. So I thought that everything was fine and he agreed to let me go. In fact, we generally don't have strict restrictions on our relationship. Naturally, we understand that we don't go to clubs at night and things like that, but I never thought he wouldn't be able to let me go abroad. I was supposed to go entirely at my own expense. In fact, I worked a lot specifically for this. And then yesterday, we literally had a conversation when I already started picking our hotels. He says, "Wait, you're actually going somewhere? I'm against it. I don't want you to go. You'll be partying and hanging out there." And I just said to him, I won't be partying or hanging out. If you really want, all I'm gonna do is go tanning and eat some food, and we will have fun during the day, and at night, we'll just sleep in our room. To which he said he's against all of it anyways. Now, honestly, this hurts me so deeply because I have dreamed about this so much. I wanted it so badly, and now all my dreams just flew into the trash. And now because of that, I don't want to talk to him, and I just have no desire to do so. Of course, I don't want to break up, but this is just so unpleasant and very hurtful. So tell me, am I the jerk here? Like, am I really in the wrong in this situation? I understand that he worries about me, but I feel like any girl would want to go on a vacation with her best friend, like, at least once. What should I do? Okay, first of all, I completely understand where you're coming from, and I don't think you're the jerk at all. Because seriously, your boyfriend's acting like, I don't know, your owner? What do you mean he can't let you go on vacation? Like, you're absolutely able to go on vacation. It's not something that you're, like, restricted from doing. Like, he doesn't own you. Because the way this guy's reacting is almost like he thinks you're gonna cheat on him, or something like that. And I'm willing to bet that you do love your boyfriend, and you would never do that to him, so that's obviously off the table. So if anything, this guy just sounds super insecure, and he's being super weird for no reason. Now, I would also kind of want to know where you're going on vacation. You did leave that part out of it. And sure, any place has something bad going on at any given moment, but it doesn't sound like you're traveling to like a war zone or something like that. Like, come on. It kind of seems like your boyfriend's overreacting and being very selfish right now. So no, you're not the jerk for being upset about this. Like, I would be pissed off, especially if I had dreamed about this for so long, like the original poster. I'd be super annoyed. I'd be like, are you kidding me right now? This is all I've ever wanted to do, and you're taking that away from me. Because essentially, that's what your boyfriend's doing, and that just feels incredibly unacceptable. Am I overreacting for refusing to babysit my sister's kids anymore? After she literally said at dinner that I don't have a real job and I don't have any stress in my life, which, if I'm being completely honest, really offended me. Because now that I've stopped helping her out, everything is falling apart, and I'm honestly not sure if I'm in the wrong or if I should just cave in and start babysitting again. Here's what's currently going on. Okay, so my sister has 3 kids under 10 years old, and somehow over the last few years, I became the default backup parent. I work from home, so everybody decided that means I'm always free. So basically it means that if the babysitter cancels, she's gonna call me. Maybe her kid has a fever, so she calls me again. Sometimes she doesn't even ask anymore. She just texts me that she's dropping them off in like 20 minutes as if I'm some kind of daycare that she already pays for or something like that. I didn't push back much because I do love my nieces and nephew, and honestly, her husband is useless half the time unless somebody is actively watching him parent. Plus, after my miscarriage last year, I think I kind of threw myself into helping people so I don't have to think too much about my own life. Last Sunday, we were having dinner at my parents' place, and my mom just let out a joke by saying, "Oh, you should start charging daycare rates." And everybody laughed at this, by the way, except for my sister. She goes, "Well, it's not like she has a real job anyways. She just sits at home on her laptop all day." Now, I laughed at first because I really thought she was kidding, but she kept going and going, saying that she has the actual exhausting life because she raises kids, while I just answer emails all day with no husband, no kids, and no responsibilities. And let me tell you something, it got super quiet after that because everybody at the table knows about the miscarriage. Even my dad looked uncomfortable and immediately tried changing the subject. But you know what? I just grabbed my stuff and I left because I could literally feel myself starting to cry. And I was not about to do that in front of everybody over some boxed wine and dried chicken parmesan. Well, ever since that dinner, I've stopped helping completely. No babysitting, no emergency pickups, literally nothing. And now she's freaking out because apparently childcare keeps falling through and she has to miss work sometimes. Yesterday, she even called saying I'm punishing innocent kids over one stupid joke and that she was clearly just kidding. But honestly, it didn't feel like a joke. It felt like one of those things that somebody has been thinking for a long time about, and finally at the wrong moment she let it slip. But now my mom wants me to let it go because the kids are stressed out and my sister's overwhelmed. My dad says he gets why I'm hurt, but also thinks I'm dragging it out too long. Part of me feels guilty because the kids didn't do anything wrong, but another part of me feels like I've basically become free labor for years. And the second I stop being useful, suddenly I'm selfish and I'm dramatic. So I don't know anymore, man. Maybe I'm just overreacting, but I'm still really pissed off about it. And at this point, I just don't know what to do. No, this is absolutely not okay, dude. You didn't do anything wrong, but holy crap, the cat is out of the bag. That toothpaste is never going back in that tube, in my opinion, because what your sister said about you was not a joke. She meant every word of it. She really thinks you don't have a real job. She thinks that you're useless and that she can use you for free labor. And that is so toxic. Like, that is completely unacceptable. So you taking a stand and reclaiming your dignity is not a bad thing. This is necessary, bro. And I know for a fact I would do the same thing because you're literally helping them in good faith. You're going out of your way to say, yeah, I'll watch your kids even though I'm working. But for them to sit there and be like, well, you don't have a real job. Like, bro, you don't get to talk to me like that. No one gets to talk to me like that. You can't just say that and expect me to roll over and play dead. Like, what are we talking about? So no, you're not the jerk. You didn't do anything wrong. And if anything, this is literally just your sister getting a taste of some medicine she desperately needs. Did I overreact by cutting my parents off after I finally realized that the way I grew up was not normal because the way they raised me is really toxic and I'm kind of at a point where I just need some distance and I simply need to stay away from them? Here's what happened. Okay, for starters, I grew up in a house that looked fine from the outside looking in. We weren't wealthy, but we were comfortable. My parents were together, we took family vacations, I did well in school, and if you asked anyone in our neighborhood about my family, they would have described it as normal and maybe even stable. I didn't start questioning any of it until I got to university and started spending real time in other people's homes. My dad ran the house through control dressed up as care. Every decision, no matter how small, had to go through him. What we ate, what we watched, what time the lights went off, what my mom wore when they went out. He never hit anyone. In fact, he didn't need to. The threat of his mood was more than enough. We all learned early on to read the signs, the way he sets his jaw, the specific silence that meant something was wrong, and we arranged ourselves around those signals constantly. And honestly, I really thought that's just what families did. My mother was also not a safe option either, which took me longer to admit because I spent years feeling sorry for her. She had a way of using my sympathy against me. When I tried to set any kind of limit as a teenager, she would cry and say I didn't love her, or she would tell me how much she had sacrificed and how little I appreciated it. Anytime I expressed a need that inconvenienced her, it suddenly became about her pain. And eventually, I learned to stop expressing needs altogether. other. There was also the information sharing. Anything I told my mom in what I thought was confidential ended up with my dad, usually reshaped in a way that made me look ungrateful or difficult. I got punished more than once for things I had only told her privately. I eventually stopped trusting her somewhere around the age of 12, but I definitely did not have the words for why until much later. I moved out at 18 and spent the next few years in a fog that I now understand was anxiety that I had no framework to name. I was jumpy in quiet spaces. I over-explained everything. I apologized constantly. My first therapist pointed out that I treated every mild disagreement like I was bracing for consequences. And at the time, I thought maybe she was reading too much into things. My second therapist was more direct. She did not use like dramatic language, but she helped me understand that what I had grown up in was not discipline. It was an environment designed to keep me small and compliant and grateful for the bare minimum. And that realization sat in my chest like something heavy for a long time. Last year, after a visit home that left me unable to sleep for 3 days, I decided to take some distance. I sent both of my parents a calm letter explaining that I needed space and why. My dad responded by forwarding it to the extended family and framing it as me having a breakdown. My mom even called me every day for 2 weeks, leaving voicemails that alternated between devastated and accusatory. My aunt even told me that I was being cruel and that parents are not perfect, but they did their best. I've not spoken to either of them for 7 months, and some days it feels like the sanest decision I've ever made. But other days as well, the guilt is so loud I can barely hear anything else. But here's the thing, I know what I experienced. I have the therapy records and the journal entries and the memories I spent years minimizing. But there is still a part of me that wonders if I'm making something out of nothing. If everyone's childhood was hard in their own way, and I'm just the one who decided that mine was a reason to finally get out of there. So seriously, am I overreacting by cutting them out of my life? Because I seriously just don't know what to do anymore. Okay, dude, the biggest example for me as to why you're not the problem here is the way your parents reacted to you saying, hey, I'm out of here. Like, look at that. They literally try to paint you as either crazy or the problem, with even your aunt being like, your parents aren't perfect, but they did their best. It's like, lady, you weren't there. That was not their best. That was them being controlling and weird and just crazy. The part that would probably hurt me the most is my mom literally betraying my trust. Dude, I would go crazy if someone started spilling my secrets after I went to them in privacy to try and work him out, or at least have someone I can confide in. Like, seriously, you literally had no one you could talk to, and yet they're still trying to make it seem like, oh, he's having a mental breakdown. He clearly doesn't care about the family. I am devastated and this is your fault. Like, these people suck. And I think it was only a matter of time before you finally snap and say, I can't take this anymore. I know I would get there probably pretty fast. So no, you're not overreacting. This is your life. And the fact that they made the beginning stages of your life so miserable absolutely should not dictate what you do moving forward. My partner of 2.5 years literally pulled the rug out from underneath me as he suddenly wants to break up despite the fact that we were fine just days before. And now I'm devastated and I'm not sure if I did something wrong and I just simply don't know what to do anymore. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that we've been living together for over a year and we had a long conversation about our future before resigning our lease about 2 months ago. I'm on his health insurance, we had vacations planned, we had storage units consolidated into one. Literally, we had our values discussed. Like everything was in line. But then, seemingly out of nowhere, it was suddenly, oh, I don't see a future with you. And the only logical conclusion is that we have to break up. Now, it's important to note that we have 10 months on the lease. 3 days before that, I was his queen and he would do anything for me. But now he says there was never a spark to begin with. He heard on a podcast or in a book or something like that children unlock something in a man that I want to feel to grow into my role as a protector. And that my depression, my family on the opposite side of the country with whom I've implemented boundaries, and my vast emotional needs are the reason that he cannot build a family with me, all because he wants a happy home. Now, obviously, this is something that he's been thinking about for a while, and just now decided to not share the journey with me. He's avoidant, and I tried not chasing and just give him space, and asking just clear, grounded questions when I needed clarification, because doing this, I thought that would at least bring him closer, as chasing him was obviously pushing him away. So I focused on my stuff. I still kept up with the house and dinner, etc., but I started calling my friends more often instead of burdening him with my life stress. I tried to connect, but he was more and more distant and not at all present, which really has brought about some traumas that I'm dealing with in therapy. He says therapy isn't for him, by the way, and I'm just completely devastated and wholly confused. Like, was there something that I did or could have done better? Is he just not capable? I mean, I was in it with this relationship, and I had convinced myself that we were both in it. His actions suggested that was true, but then this happened. So why Why do men say they can't find good women and then refuse to put in the work for those long-term partnerships that are apparently so elusive? I know that I need to get back on my own 2 feet first, but what can I do differently in the future? Where does one even find a man that truly wants a partnership? What should I do? Okay, I think you need to take a few steps back because the way you're talking about this is almost phrasing it like you did something wrong. Because holy crap, you didn't do anything wrong. Your ex-boyfriend is just a piece of crap. Seriously, this guy's just sitting there being like, oh yeah, you're my queen. And then 3 days later says, oh yeah, we didn't have a spark. The only conclusion here is that we break up. But I bet you if you went through his phone and checked his messages or his DMs on Instagram, he probably would be singing a different tune. Like, this kind of sounds like cheater behavior if you ask me. So if I was in your shoes, man, I would be looking at this from a different angle. Like, I don't think you did anything wrong. It's clear that you're trying to like better yourself and have a good relationship with this guy, but he clearly just doesn't want it. He would rather run off and go find some other chick. And that really sucks in my opinion, and it's just not fair for you in the slightest. My entitled manager wrote me up at work after he said I abandoned my post, when in reality, I was rushing outside after I witnessed a car accident, and I was just trying to make sure that everyone was okay. And I'm honestly still blown away by this situation because I simply cannot believe the audacity of my manager. Here's what happened. Okay, just to clarify and make sure I say this at the top of the story, I am not in the military. So this takes place when I was 20, working summer jobs while living with my parents to pay for college. I was already working full-time as a waiter at a very fun restaurant that I really enjoyed, but I wanted to make a little extra money. So I got a job as a host at another restaurant, and we'll call that restaurant Sapphire Wednesdays. Well, I knew immediately that that place was mismanaged, mostly cued in by the manager having a beer at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Tuesday during my interview. But regardless, my responsibilities as a host were very easy. Seat the customers, inform servers, sweep the table near the front, etc. I had already been working in restaurants since I was 16 years old, so my training was over in just about an hour. About a week after I was hired, sometime after lunch but during dinner rush, there was a car accident in front of the store. A car was sideswiped by a semi and run into a telephone pole on a busy suburban road. I told a server to call 911 and I sprinted out and across the parking lot just to check on the car. And thankfully, the woman in the car was shaken up but still fine. The truck driver was out of his truck and on the phone with 911, and other drivers had stopped as well. A very nice moment of humanity from folks on their way home from work. So I decided that everything was being handled as best as possible, so I just went back to the restaurant. I then walked back in to find the manager standing at the empty host stand in front of a nearly empty dining room, looking at me and asking, okay, well, where did you go? I said to them, well, there was an accident. I went out to make sure everything was okay. My manager then asked me, well, why do you feel the need to do that? And I'm just thinking to myself, oh, I don't know, stupid. Maybe because I'm a human being? After a brief back and forth, the manager says he has to write me up for abandoning my post. And I was too confused and angry to argue, so I just told him, okay, that's fine. He then reminded me the following. One more write-up within your first month means that you're gonna be fired. I then went home and explained all of this to my dad, who was laughing through his anger and suggested I quit and just focus on the other job. And while I decided he was right, I also hatched a little plan. Rather than quitting, I showed up an hour late to my next shift that the same manager worked. This also happened to be Friday night during dinner, and I was the only host scheduled. Well, the manager was furious that he had to get out of the office and actually do work. So when I walked in, he saw me and immediately began berating me. I asked him if I was going to get written up for this, to which he replied, oh, you better believe you're gonna get written up. But then I responded by being like, oh no, I guess I'm getting fired. Okay, see you later. And after that, I literally went home and I drank whiskey and I smoked a cigar with my dad on the back porch just to celebrate. Dude, you know you're a crappy manager when you get pissed off at someone supposedly abandoning their post, when all the original poster was doing was running outside to make sure that no one was dead. So the fact that your manager did that and tried to be like, oh wow, you abandoned your post. It's like, dude, this is a restaurant. This is not some guard post in the military. Like, what are you talking about? You're not abandoning anything. You're literally trying to make sure someone's not like dead on the street. So good for you for getting out of there. And I just love the fact that you inconvenienced this guy in the process, because getting written up over something like this is absolutely insane in my opinion. And it really makes me wonder how people like that ever become a manager in the first place. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My boyfriend mocks the fact that I drive a school bus for a living, saying that I should do more with my life and that I'm wasting my time, putting me in a situation where I'm devastated by his comments and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, I'm 36 years old and I work 2 jobs. My main job is driving a school bus for elementary kids, and on the side, I freelance as a graphic designer. I really like the balance. Driving gives me steady income and benefits too, and on the other hand, design gives me the creative freedom. It's not glamorous, but it really works for me. This past weekend, I stayed over at my boyfriend's boyfriend's place, and for reference, we've been together for like 8 months, and things were fine until he starts talking about my job. He said I was too smart to be wasting my life driving a bus. He then added, well, anyone could do that job. If you want me to take you seriously, you should quit and just focus on design. Now that statement only was very hard on me. People love to act like driving a school bus is just turning a wheel, but it's a lot more than that. I wake up before the sunrise, I do safety checks, I keep 40 kids in line, I'm dealing with traffic, the parents, the weather, literally all of that. If I mess up even once, people could get hurt. This is not something that anyone can just step into. Well, I relaxed and I tried to make him see all of that, but he just laughed in my face saying, oh, you make it sound like you're flying a plane. You're just driving around literally in circles and babysitting kids. And that's when I lost it. I told him he had no right to belittle me or my work, and he said I was being too dramatic and too proud of being a driver. I then packed my things and I left his house immediately. And by the way, this was at 7 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. The whole thing just keeps replaying in my head. I thought he respected me, but it turns out he thinks that my job makes me less worthy of respect. I can't stop thinking about how entitled you have to be to look down on someone just because their job doesn't sound fancy enough, even to someone that you love. He sits in an office all day while I'm the one keeping kids safe on the road, and somehow I'm the one who should feel embarrassed. It's honestly so disheartening and I just don't know what to do. Yeah, your boyfriend is one big walking red flag, like holy crap. This guy literally said to you, what you're doing is not that hard and you should really be doing better in life. Like, dude, what are you talking about? There really is no problem with driving a school bus for kids. Like, I can't believe your boyfriend's acting like that. Like, that's really insane in my opinion. Because what he just said is completely uncalled for and you do not deserve that. My boyfriend decided that he wanted to experiment on my expensive makeup collection, as he literally wasted and broke so much of it that it's left me incredibly pissed off. And even though I confronted him and tried to explain that this was not okay, he tried to blow me off by saying that I'm just too sensitive, putting me in a situation that honestly really pisses me off. And right now I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I came home yesterday to find my makeup organizer completely messed up. My boyfriend admitted he got curious about how makeup works and decided to try using several of my expensive products. He broke an eyeshadow palette which was $45, he spilled foundation on my carpet, and left several brushes caked with product. Half of my collection was gifts from my mom and my sister for my birthday, including a limited edition palette that's now ruined. When I got upset, he just laughed and said, oh, it's just makeup, and that I'm just being too sensitive about it. I'm literally in tears because some of these products took months to save for. I would never touch his gaming equipment or even mess with his things because I respect boundaries. I've explained this to him before when he's used my skincare without asking. He thinks I'm massively overreacting because he was just curious and wanted to understand what I spend so much time on, but I just don't think it's funny at all. So am I overreacting for being upset about this? Because I am still incredibly pissed off. Okay, first and foremost, no, I don't think you overreacted because this is really messed up. You could replace the word makeup with anything else in the world and it would still be incredibly bad. And I gotta be honest, some of these makeup palettes and like the things you can buy with makeup are incredibly expensive. They're delicate, they can easily break and be completely ruined. And this guy's running in there like a toddler being like, oh, I wonder how it works. It's like, dude, of course you know how it works. Either you did this on purpose just to screw with your girlfriend, or you really are dumb and you just don't know that, hey, maybe this is something you shouldn't be messing with. And in my opinion, I think he did it on purpose. Like seriously, this seems incredibly messed up and very stupid. So no, you're not overreacting here. This is something that really does need to be addressed because what he did is completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for choosing to spend time with my half-sister instead of with my family, all because they keep excluding her over something she had nothing to do with? Because right now my family is freaking out on me and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my half-sister is the result of my father cheating on my mom. So it's no surprise that apart from a few aunts, uncles, and cousins, my family doesn't really like her and will oftentimes exclude her from family events. I've personally never held a grudge against her because she's the closest thing to a sibling that I have since I'm an only child, and because I just never understood taking your anger and frustration out on a child of an affair because she's a victim of the whole situation too. So I'm sure you can imagine that I hate how they pretty much just try to push her out of the family and make sure that she doesn't feel welcomed. Well, an event was coming up and it wasn't anything crazy. It was just a simple get-together, and this was about 2 weeks ago, and I just knew that they wouldn't invite my half-sister, so I just decided I wasn't going, and instead I'm just gonna hang out with her for the day. And you know what? That's exactly what I did on the day of the get-together. After a few minutes of hanging out, I get a text message from my mom asking where I was. I then just simply replied that I was with my half-sister and that I wasn't going to the get-together. Well, like 2 minutes later, my phone was blowing up with text messages and voicemails and recordings from our family members. A lot of them were just simply insults being hurled at me and my half-sister, and the others were asking why I would would rather spend time with her over the entire family. I decided to wait until things cooled down before giving a response to my family. After leaving at around 10 o'clock p.m., I finally decided to text my mom and my other family members, telling them that my half-sister is part of the family in my eyes, and she shouldn't be treated like garbage for something she had no control over. Now, at this point, I haven't really gotten any kind of responses or text messages back, besides from like a few family members being stubborn and saying how I was in the wrong, but I simply haven't backed down on my opinion because this is honestly so ridiculous. So am I in the wrong in this situation? Because right now I don't know what to do. No, you are definitely not the jerk. Your family's being really weird. If there's anybody that they should be pissed off at, it's the dad for cheating, not the kid who has nothing to do with it. Like, why would you take it out on a child who literally had no say in the matter and was born into a situation that really sucks? They should be embracing them in the family, especially if they're a normal kid. Like, it doesn't sound like there's any kind of like behavior issues or anything like that. So there's really no like legitimate reason why they can't be involved in the family. So no, I think what you're doing is very kind and the thing that absolutely should be happening, because your family's being super cruel and just very mean for like literally no reason. Am I the jerk for locking my pantry up after my roommate kept giving my food away to her friends without asking me, all for free? Because at this point, I'm super pissed off and I just don't know how to deal with this situation. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, I'm 23 years old and I share an apartment with my roommate who we will call Layla for the sake of the story. We've lived together for about 8 months and overall things were fine. That is, until she started treating my groceries like they were communal, like it was hers to give out as she pleased. At first, it was small things like a slice of bread, a bit of milk, so I just ignored that. Nothing really worth fighting over. But then she began hosting her friends at our place without even asking me first, and I'd usually come home to find entire bags of snacks, my coffee, and sometimes full meals just completely gone. So I finally asked her about it, and what she said to me was, "Oh, you don't mind sharing, right? It's not like you'll finish all this by yourself anyways." Now, I do meal prep for the week, so every missing container throws me completely off. In fact, last week I came back from work, and literally half the dinner I cooked for the week was gone because she let her friends just help themselves. And again, when I told her I couldn't afford to feed 3 extra people, she just rolled her eyes and said I was being stingy with food. So I decided to buy a small lock for my pantry and just started keeping most of my food inside. She was furious when she noticed and said that I was making her look bad in front of her friends because, according to her, normal roommates don't lock up their food. And at this point, I knew that she was pretty much already starting to feel entitled to my stuff, which really just doesn't sit well with me. And now some mutual friends are saying that I escalated things by putting a lock on it instead of just setting stricter rules. I feel like I tried that already and it didn't work, but now I'm second guessing if it was way too extreme. Man, you have a selfish roommate. She really thinks it's okay to like give out all of your food? Like, why can't she give out her own food? Like, why is she going to you and being like, "Oh, you're totally fine sharing. You're not going to finish any of this anyways." Like, at that point, I would almost want to get revenge on her and like invite homeless people in the house and give her food away to them. She's treating your groceries like a charity, dude. Like, what's going on right now? So no, you're not the jerk for locking up your stuff. I quite literally would do the same thing because this is crazy. And the fact that she's offended by it and trying to be like, "Oh, you're making me look bad." Like, that is so dumb and selfish. It's just not funny and it's just really annoying to deal with because what she's saying makes no sense and there's no rationale where she would ever be right. Am I the jerk for expecting my wife to visit my family for the holidays, even though she really doesn't like my family because, according to her, she says that they ruined our wedding? And at this point, I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong and I don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. So my wife and I married over 2 years ago, and she is still salty about what my parents wore to the wedding. My dad wore jeans with a blazer, and my mom wore a Patagonia-like vest under a silk shirt that was clearly visible, while also wearing Crocs. I understand that was definitely not wedding-appropriate attire, and I did tell them what to wear. However, having dealt with them my entire life, I cannot say that I'm surprised. She says she is upset because our wedding photos were not nice to look at, and she never even framed them. My dad also yelled at the waiter, which was bad, yeah, but she didn't know until after the wedding, and my sister managed to get him under control, so it didn't really impact the wedding at all. And we fought about this for a few days after the wedding, but eventually it died down and we stopped discussing it, partly because my parents live 7 hours away, so she's never really interacted with them after the wedding. She then told me that she wouldn't be visiting my family, and I took it to mean that year, which was totally fine, as the memory was too fresh, but she actually meant ever again. We also had our son 8 months ago, and she refuses to come and see my parents for the holidays. I would understand if it was the fact that she just wasn't feeling well, but she's feeling amazing because she hiked for like hours the previous weekend and wants to go skiing again this season. She basically just doesn't want to interact with my family. Now, my parents are not easy to deal with. My dad is not friendly and he's bitter from being unaccomplished, so that basically left him him with like a miserable attitude. However, visiting once a year and sucking it up for a few hours a day when he hasn't even blown up or made any comments towards my wife, beyond at the beginning when he said he doesn't like her profession, and not even to her face, to me just doesn't seem unreasonable, especially for her to dislike him that much. But you know what? She refuses, and traveling with an 8-month-old is incredibly difficult. She is still breastfeeding him, but has some frozen milk built up, and thinks that I should just accept her not wanting to visit my parents by either bringing the frozen milk to feed him for a few days, or I just go alone. But I tried to tell her that it's just really rude not to at least try to get along, and if there's a fight, she won't need to interact with them again. But even then, she just straight up refuses. And so I feel like I'm being made to be the jerk for expecting her to do this. But I will say, after speaking with colleagues and close friends, most family are just a bunch of people they don't like, and most do not like their in-laws at all. And yet even still, they make an effort to at least go once a year. But my wife says they ruined her wedding photos, so she's not visiting them, which in her eyes makes them even. So am I the jerk for expecting anything out of my wife when it comes to visiting my family? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I'm not sure who's in the wrong. Okay, I think the original poster is just oblivious to the fact that their family is super toxic. Like, these people are just completely inconsiderate, they're not thinking about anyone but themselves, and they even showed up to your wedding in like the most casual attire possible. And they're also just writing off all these crappy things his dad's done, and it's like, dude, are you really just trying to excuse everything they're doing? Like, this guy has an excuse for quite literally anything they've done or they've even thought about doing, while also confessing in the same sentence that his dad was talking crap about his wife. And yet this guy's trying to be like, oh, come on, just suck it up. It's only for one day they get to treat you like garbage again in person. What's the big deal? Like, honestly, I think your wife is completely right, and I think the original poster is 100% the jerk. Because as far as I'm seeing this, like, dude, your family is toxic and they don't sound like good people, and you should not expect your wife to deal with that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not allowing my mom to withdraw from her 401k after she had been scammed through cryptocurrency for over $1 million? Because right now, I'm honestly not sure how to get through to my mom, as I really believe she is super delusional and missing the entire point, putting me in a situation where I truly just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, for a bit of background, my mother was sent over $1.5 million through cryptocurrency over the last 6 months through an online task scam. And through every step of this process, she has claimed that this is the last step, I swear. But then something pops up where she had no choice but to put more money into it just to retrieve all her money and more. She refuses to believe it's a scam and still has 100% confidence that it is real. Apparently, she needs to send them $30,000 within 2 weeks and has no way of obtaining this money besides withdrawing from her 401k. She has already mortgaged her cars, borrowed against her life insurance, and taken out loans against her house. From what I know, the only asset she has left is her retirement and her house, which is like a small fraction of the total value. She won't be able to sell her house within 2 weeks, so she wants to withdraw from her 401k. But because she doesn't meet the age requirement, she can't withdraw from it. She wants to do a hardship 401k withdrawal under tuition and then send that to the scammers. And I believe she would need to pay tax on it in addition to a 10% penalty for withdrawing it, all before meeting the actual age requirement. She basically would need a document from the school, which can only be obtained by the student, just to apply for her 401k hardship withdrawal, which is right where I come into play, because I'm refusing to help her get this document. From her perspective, she says that we're family and we should support each other in hard times. It's her money and she just needs my help accessing it, with her saying that she's trying to get to her own money and not mine. And once again, she says it's the last step, and if after this she still doesn't get her money, then she'll quit. She also says it's only $30,000 compared to the $1,500,000 she already put in. She has put in this last bit to get it all back, and according to her, she would rather lose $30,000 and have the peace of mind knowing they fully scammed her than thinking that she ruined other people's lives and lost her money. And from her perspective, she believes they loaned her money just to get her to pay, since she could not cover the entire amount, and that somehow if she doesn't do this, it's affecting their lives. She also added at the end of that I'm ruining her life because I'm stopping her from accessing her own money. But here's the thing, from my perspective, I just want her to quit sending money and realize it's a scam. If giving her the document would allow her to lose her $30,000 and then finally accept it's a scam, then I'm fine with that. But she has lied every step of the way, always saying it's the last step and that she will quit, but still just never does. Her promise to quit doesn't have any meaning, and if I enable her to get this money, I'm only ruining her life further when she finally accepts it's a scam. I do not want to be involved in the scam at all. Even if it's just enabling her to access her money, I don't think there will ever be an end until her money runs dry. And if I don't help her here, then this may be where her money runs dry entirely. So am I the jerk here? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna have a really hot take here, and and maybe you're gonna disagree, but please let me know in the comment section. But in my mind, any kind of new cryptocurrency is probably just gonna be a scam. Like, there are so many instances where these big YouTubers and other people make this cryptocurrency, and then they rug pull their entire audience after they buy into it, and then they run off with all the money while you're stuck with nothing. Like, look at the original poster and their mom in this situation. I can't imagine being scammed over $1 million over a cryptocurrency, man. Like, what's going on right now? Like, it all just seems like some get-rich-quick scheme, and it just doesn't seem legitimate at all. So no, the original poster is not the jerk. I would never help her out in this way. She's ruining her savings all for some stupid cryptocurrency that just is never gonna go anywhere. I don't know, man. In my opinion, it just seems like cryptocurrency is like a massive scam, and I'm sure someone out there is gonna be like, no, it's not. There's so many legitimate ones out there. But like, dude, come on now. The second a YouTuber or some content creator or literally anybody says, oh yeah, we're making a new cryptocurrency coin, you guys are gonna love this. Get in now because you're gonna get rich. Anytime they say something like that, I'm immediately just on high alert, and I'm saying like, dude, there's no way I'm giving you a single cent of my money, because chances are you're gonna get all my money and then bail at the last second, and I'm not gonna have anything left. Like, I'm gonna lose all that money. Like, I might as well be lighting my savings on fire, dude. Like, come on. So I don't know. It's kind of a tangent on my end. This is like a pet peeve of mine. So I really like this story because I'm right there with the original poster. Your mom has absolutely been scammed, and it's super unfortunate, but it is what it is. Like, you can't control her. But leave a comment down below. I would love to hear your perspective on this, whether it's about the story or just about cryptocurrency in general. Let me know in the comment section because I would love to hear what you have to say. My psycho landlord is literally trying to drive me out of my rental house, as she was pissed off that I was allowed to move in instead of her friend, thus making it her life's goal to make me as miserable as possible. But thankfully, karma was on my side as I got back at her and got some fantastic revenge in a way that literally forced her to move out. Here's how I did it. Years ago, I moved into a duplex from a very nice owner who was honest and reasonable. And when I got there, I put down this healthy security deposit and I moved in. Well, unfortunately, he was not my day-to-day contact. That was this delightful and charming woman who we will call Sarah for the sake of the story. She was basically the on-site landlord, and I found out later that she was a tenant who the owner made an arrangement with. Now, in return for cutting her rent in half, which is a sweet gig in and of itself, she collected and deposited the rental checks. She arranged for any repairs and handled any other day-to-day things. And the neighborhood had about 5 duplexes owned by this man. Now, it's important to know that Sarah hated me from day one, and what's more, she lived in the other half of the duplex. You know all the nightmare petty landlord stuff that you see on this subreddit? It's safe to say that Sarah ticked off all the boxes. She was a homeowners association style Karen, obsessed with all the rules. She yelled at my friends for parking an inch over on her side of the duplex. If my place wasn't stone quiet a minute after quiet time, like if the doorbell rang or if the phone went off, she would literally lose her mind. Also, the rental checks I dropped in the same mailbox slot I always did somehow just completely got lost constantly, and appliances and other things were just not fixed in anything resembling a timely manner, and the list just goes on and on. It was more annoying than awful. I told myself I could live with it as I was going to be moving closer to my job after my lease ran out. Later on, I found out why she hates me. She had wanted a friend of hers to move into the duplex that I got, but the owner said no because her credit check was awful and mine was sparkling clean. So she just wanted to make my life miserable out of pure spite. Well, as the end of my lease drew near, I noticed that my water heater was leaking. I dried the floor around it and then put some towels down just to try and mitigate the problem. Then I emailed Sarah, because trust me, I had wised up at this point, and I started keeping a digital timesheet of everything I ever said to this woman. And as you can probably guess, I got no response. Then a week later, I re-forwarded the email with a friendly, oh, you may have missed this, but this could be a real problem. But still, I got no response. I then sent another email by saying, I had a friend who is a plumber look at it and he recommended immediately to do certain things to fix it. And finally, she responded by saying, I'll look into it, and said nothing else. At this point, she was just trying to run the clock out on me. Now, it had been about a month now, and I was just a few weeks away from moving out. I saw Sarah watering her flowers, and I approached her and I mentioned it. She blew me off at first, but finished the conversation with a threat. I hope you're keeping it clean around there. I'm a stickler when it comes to the final inspection. If you want to get any of your deposit back, you better be ready to pass a white glove inspection. So I thought to myself, okay then, if that's how you want to play it, then that's fine by me. I was trying to figure out how I would get petty revenge, but about a week later, right before my last rent check was due, I happened to see the owner in the neighborhood, and Sarah was nowhere to be found. And that's when it struck me how I can make all of this worse. I went out to say hello and tell him thanks for renting to me and that I appreciated that. He was very friendly and said that he was sorry that I was leaving, etc. And if I needed anything to please let him know. And that's when I knew this was checkmate. I asked him if he had a few minutes to come in and do the security deposit inspection, and he said, sure, I can do that. And we then went into my place together. As we were walking around looking at things, he was all positive. He said to me, yep, it looks great. There's no issues at all that I can see. But then we came to the water heater. I then paused dramatically and I said pretty solemnly, I hope we can come to some kind of understanding about the floor around the water heater. I then opened the closet doors and I showed him. I told him what I'd been doing to fight the leak, and I pulled up the sopping wet towels that I put down the night before, and I told him I have experience with mold and that it was some nasty stuff. He then got quiet and said to me, well, have you told Sarah about this? And I said to him, why, yes, I did. Here, a copy of the emails that I sent to her. He read them out and then noticed that I kept them in a file folder. He then looked at me and said, okay, are there other things that haven't been fixed? And it's here that I showed him a few other emails that I had collected. He then got beat red in the face. He then said to me, okay, I think with what I've seen here, I'm fine with releasing your full security deposit. And in that moment, it struck me. I had one more rent check due, which was for $750. So I said to him, okay, well, how about instead of me writing you a check for $750, you just write me a check for $500 and I just write you a check for $250 and we call it even. He then shrugged and said, okay, sure. And we signed the paperwork and he left. A few days later, I dropped my check for $250 in the mail slot. And later that evening, Sarah pounded on my door, foaming at the mouth about how I didn't write a full check. She said that she can evict me if I don't write a check for the full amount right now. Well, it's here that I explain, conveniently omitting that the owner had done the inspection, that I wrote a check for $250 because my security deposit covered the $500 that was already there. Sarah's eyes then widened as her brain tried to comprehend what I had just said. And it's here that she nearly exploded, yelling at me about how that's not how things are done around here, saying that I need to obey the rules like everybody else, and that apparently she has final say because she does the inspections. Well, friends, she literally had spittle flying out of her mouth. She was so enraged. I then calmly told her that the owner had done the inspection and signed off on the payment arrangement, and told her to talk to him and to get off my porch and quit bothering me. Then I very slowly closed the door on her and I didn't look back. Again, her brain froze and she went into lockdown trying to process what I had just said. And that is an image that I will forever remember. Before I moved out, the owner came by to ask if he can come in and fix the water heater for the next tenant, and I said to him, sure. As he was working, we talked a little bit, and he mentioned that his daughter was moving into my place, and that she was going to take over the on-site landlord duties. I then asked the burning question about Sarah. Well, the owner simply said that she's going to be moving out, because apparently she decided she can't afford to pay the full rent anymore, which is great to hear because it sounds like her gig finally ran out. Okay, I love this story so much, dude. I can't stand bad neighbors, especially when these neighbors are like, oh, I have power over your living situation. I'm gonna evict you if you don't pay the full amount. And it's like, dude, I can't stand people who are landlords who act like this, where they literally would never repair a single thing in your apartment, but then they're gonna turn around and be like, oh, I'm gonna get you out of here so fast. Either give me my money or you're gone. Meanwhile, the original poster is sitting there with a water heater that's leaking water all the time. Like, I don't know about you, but they could have called someone the week they found out about it and gotten that taken care of. But instead, they sit on it and they do nothing because they're terrible people. So good for you for getting that revenge and for effectively getting her kicked out of the house as well, because her attitude was completely unnecessary and it's so good to see you get back at her. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I took some petty revenge against an entitled Karen who was giving me some unnecessary problems at a car wash that I worked at. Here's what happened. So I work at a small car wash where business can go from dead silence to bustling with customers. We get all kinds every day and most of them are pretty tolerable, especially those who have a membership with us. How it works is that we give them a barcode sticker that has to go on their windshield and our scanners automatically let them through. Now, a lot of people just keep the sticker on a slip of paper and hold it up against the glass when they come through because apparently it's too much to ask for the bare minimum nowadays. It's also now a corporate policy we now have to enforce that if they have a membership, we cannot allow them in unless the sticker is up. Apparently, it keeps them from sharing passwords and whatnot. It's really dumb, but my bosses are on my butt about being firm with customers who refuse to cooperate. Now, a lot of them just argue with us for a minute and then either put the sticker up or just full on cancel their membership with us, which honestly, it's like, okay, good riddance. Earlier this week, I came face to face with a woman who looked like she was born to be a Karen. I'm talking blonde blonde short hair, the oversized glasses, the car that's too big for her to drive, and a high-pitched grating voice. She came through holding the sticker up, acting like I wasn't even there saying hello to her. When I kindly told her, hey, just so you know, we have a new policy that says you have to put your sticker on the window, she immediately cut me off and said, I know, they were telling me last time that I have to do it, but I haven't had time to and I'm not going to do it. Well, when she said this, I was simply stunned, but I kept my voice level and tried to explain further, but then she became an even bigger jerk. She said to me, I pay $27 a month, so I should be able to put it wherever I want. After reminding her that it's not my policy, she just dismissed me and drove through. After she came out and started messing around with the vacuums, I told her politely that she most likely won't be able to come back in next time if her sticker isn't up where it's supposed to be. She then looked fully annoyed at me and said, okay, well then I'll most likely be canceling my membership. And when she said this, internally I was literally doing cartwheels. But it wasn't enough to calm me down since I was seething from all the similar treatment me and my other coworkers have been going through, especially with this policy over the last few months. Once she left, I pulled up her account information with us, and after debating with myself for 30 minutes, I ended up changing her barcode to a different one. That way, if she does come through again, it's not going to work and possibly register her account as inactive. In a worst case scenario, we'll simply assign her a new one, and in the process, we will have to order her to put it on the windshield this time and make sure that it happens since it takes 24 hours for a sticker to activate. Either way, she'll have to cooperate if she comes through again. Now, those of you out there who take it personally when we ask you to put a sticker up, your precious little windshield will look just fine with something on it. People do it every day and survive just fine. So take your first world problems and shove it. We're not asking you for a kidney, and 9 out of 10 times we don't even care what you do. But we are being ordered to enforce a stupid policy. We don't care how much you pay for your membership. Rules come with them for a reason, and we are overworked and underpaid people who deal with your unnecessary attitudes every single day. Just because you're the customer doesn't mean that you can talk to us like we're your little personal servants. We love to provide good service for people who treat us like people. And to the ones who don't, well, just know that we're most likely looking for ways to make sure that your experience is just as inconvenient as ours. Okay, I want to say that I completely understand where the original poster is coming from. They've been getting this kind of treatment from everybody for months now. They hate this policy just as much as anybody else because they're saying to themselves, oh my god, I now have to enforce something towards grown adults who are absolutely not going to listen. Like, I don't know about you, but I've been in this situation where you're trying to talk to customers or clients or patients or something like that, and the second you tell them what to do, they're going to be like, oh, I'm sorry, but who are you again? I don't have to listen to you. I can do whatever I want. And that is so frustrating because I know for a fact, and I've been there, that you don't want to deal with this in the first place. The policy is stupid. What you're asking of them, you don't even agree with, but you know for a fact if you don't do it, you're probably going to get fired, and that is way worse than pissing off this customer. So you just grit your teeth and bear it like you would with anything else, and it just sucks altogether. It's a terrible experience, and I know exactly what you're going through. So I personally love this petty revenge because, in my opinion, this entitled Karen absolutely deserved it. Am I overreacting by quitting my job on the spot after my boss rehired someone that I specifically asked them not to? Because right now I'm so pissed off that I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, my brother owns a business. However, he's had multiple stroke attacks, so he couldn't properly talk. I was asked to take his role because of his problem, and I was jobless at the time, and I've been working for almost 3 years now. It's basically a family business as my sister-in-law and my dad also work here too. Last week, my sister-in-law asked if a girl, let's call her Bella for the sake of the story, could come work with us again. And for reference, Bella worked at the business before, but she was asked to leave last year. And now I'm being asked if she could come back, but I said no. The reason why is because Bella slept with my father. And yeah, I bet you didn't see that coming. She has been sleeping with him in the past 2 years. I knew about this, and my siblings, including my sick brother and my sister-in-law, also knew about this too. We actually wanted to do something, but my mother asked us not to do anything to my father. And trust me, that's a story for another time. Well, I got mad because I have to watch this disgusting relationship in front of my eyes. I was enraged. I told my sister-in-law that I won't forgive her, but she said that it's urgent, so she needs to rehire Bella. So now I silently took all my stuff and I'm not going back to work this Monday. It's a silent quit, and I believe it's a deadly one, as I was basically the backbone of the operations of that business. So am I overreacting here? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I don't think it's a good idea to just walk out and not come back Monday morning. Like, I would definitely try to find something else in the meantime, because holy crap, this is just already super messy. Like, I would actively try to find another job and not just be like, oh, I'm not coming back. I'm gonna silently quit because I'm the backbone of this operation. But I've got news for you. Everybody's replaceable, and they really will find someone else to do your job. So in my opinion, I think it would be better to try and start applying for other places than to just quit outright and be without a job. So yeah, you might be overreacting here, but I do think it is time to leave because your family clearly doesn't care about this lady or the fact that she's the reason your dad's like been cheating on your mom. And while that is really unfortunate, you can also take a stand and not have anything to do with that. And I really think the best way to do this is by finding another job and then getting out of there. Did I overreact by kicking my partner out of my house after I discovered he had been with a girl while I was away from home? Because right now I'm not sure if I made a mistake and I'm just not sure what to do. Here's how it all went down. Okay, I want to start off by saying that my partner has been acting strange lately, constantly using our son as an excuse. He claims that our son's health issues are draining all the money, implying that it's my fault, even though I'm the sole breadwinner now. He lost his job after getting into a fight at his company, and over the past few months, I've noticed he's been complaining about everything, as if I was responsible for his termination. Recently, I took our son to therapy, but on my way, I called the hospital to confirm the appointment time. They then informed me that the appointment was actually scheduled for the next day and not that day. So instead of heading back home, I decided to visit a cafe to take care of some errands and grab some groceries before returning home. Keep in mind, therapy sessions usually last like 2 hours, and adding an extra hour for the bus ride to and from the hospital, I wasn't expecting to be back home so early. Well, apparently my partner didn't expect me to be home early either, so I literally caught him red-handed, and that's when I discovered he had bringing some lady back to our home while I was at work or at the hospital. Well, when I discovered this, I sent him out that day. And looking back, I'm left wondering if I was too oblivious or if I should have seen the signs earlier. So seriously, did I go too far in this situation? Because I just don't know if I'm in the wrong and I don't know what to do. Oh man, this guy was taking advantage of you. That is so unfortunate. Think about it. This guy literally tried to be like, I got fired and it's your fault, all while using your son between the two of you as some kind of excuse. Like, I'm sorry, I don't care what kind of stress you're under. Acting like that and trying to like blame your partner on you getting terminated, all because you got a fight at work, that's like inappropriate. So in my opinion, I think getting rid of this guy and kicking him to the curb is like the best decision you made. He's also not the brightest person in the world because he brought some lady back to your house while you were gone. Like, he clearly thought those few hours would have been enough time for him to meet with this lady and get away with it, but that decision in and of itself is so toxic and so dumb, dude. So no, you did not overreact by kicking him out. I think that's the only reasonable thing to do here, because this guy was cheating on you and he clearly just did not want to do anything with his life. And with all things considered, you definitely do not deserve to be treated like this in the slightest. Am I the jerk for trying to write up an agreement after my sister-in-law asked if she could borrow a few $1,000s from me? Because right now she's trying to make it seem like I'm the jerk for writing up any kind of agreement between the two of us, and at this point, I don't know if I'm in the wrong. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that my sister-in-law needs some money on a short-term basis, and she just needs a few $1,000s. And for me, I have a rule that for anything over $1,000, I need a basic contract. So I offered a loan with what I consider to be rather favorable terms. It would be a 15-year schedule, 12%. The lender can call for a balloon payment at the 60-month mark, no payments or interest for the first 6 months. Well, when I said this, she responded with an unwillingness to sign an agreement and that I should simply lend the money because she is good for it. She also mentioned to my wife that she does not like the idea that I'm trying to make money off of her. Now, I felt that my offer was extremely fair, and she had indicated an ability to pay the entire thing back in February, so in my mind, offering 6 months of no interest and no payments is materially aligned with her desires. And specifically, I'm not making any money off the deal, especially if the full repayment in February were to happen. I have been witness to friends and family loans turning into absolute disasters, which is why for me, anything under $1,000 is always just a gift from my point of view, and anything over $1,000 gets a basic agreement so that expectations are clear and both parties are protected. It's also important to note that she did not cast any dispersions or say anything negative to me, but I definitely kind of felt like a jerk here because her expectation was that I would just spot the cash with no type of agreement. But at the same time, I don't appreciate the communication to my wife that I'm trying to make money off of her. At the end of the day, I'm more than happy to float whatever they need for 6 months, but if circumstances change and I have cash locked up in something that doesn't pay any interest, for all intents and purposes due to inflation, I'm going to be perpetually paying a price beyond the initial loan amount. So seriously, am I the jerk here for wanting to have some kind of agreement? Because I honestly just don't know what to do anymore. Okay, I'm right there with the original poster because I think it's a very good idea to have something in writing. Do you know how many stories I've read on Reddit alone of people not doing this and then being screwed later on? Like, it is crazy the things that people will do just to like make sure they don't pay you money that they owe you. And you're not saying that your sister-in-law would do that, but like, dude, this at least gives peace of mind to the person giving out thousands of dollars, dude. So in my mind, I think this is the only reasonable thing to do. And the fact that your sister-in-law is unwilling to do it, in my opinion, is kind of showing her hand. It says that she wants the money without the commitment, and that is completely unacceptable, especially if she's claiming that she's good for the money. It's like, okay, if you're good for the money, then this should be no problem, right? So no, you're not the jerk here. I think you're making a good decision, because if I was in your shoes, I would do the same thing. Am I overreacting at my roommate after they turned our living room into his girlfriend's walk-in closet without my permission? Because at this point, I basically have a third roommate who doesn't pay rent. And at this point, I'm very pissed off and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I live with two roommates. We've been friends for years, we split rent evenly, and up until recently, everything worked fine. One of them started dating someone a few months ago, and I thought to myself, okay, cool, happy for him. As a result, she started spending more time over at our place, which guess what? Also, completely fine. I'm not the type of person who doesn't want any guests in the house, but with that in mind, it's now become completely absurd. At some point over the past 2 weeks, all without even a basic conversation, she just started moving her stuff in. Not just a toothbrush or some clothing, I'm talking racks of clothes, multiple full-size bins of shoes, drawers, beauty products, mirrors, even one of those light-up vanity setups. And here's the best part. He put all of it in the living room, like our shared living room, the place where we eat, we hang out, we watch TV. It is now effectively her giant open closet. There are clothes hanging where our movie posters used to be. A literal rolling clothing rack is blocking half the couch. It looks like TJ Maxx exploded in there. And when I brought it up to him, very calmly might I add, he said it's temporary and that she's transitioning out of her old place. But she's never not here now. She's basically a third roommate except one who doesn't pay rent and whose stuff has evicted us from our own common area. I even asked him how long this temporary setup is supposed to last. And he just shrugged and said, oh, only a few more weeks, probably. No apology, no offer to move her stuff elsewhere, and now I guess I'm just supposed to live around it. So I'm trying not to be dramatic about this, but is it really that unreasonable to expect a heads up before our main shared space becomes someone else's personal dressing room? So am I overreacting here because I really feel like I'm going crazy and I just don't know what to do? Okay, in my eyes, I think the way your roommate's acting is completely unfair because the original poster is 100% correct. This is intrusive, it's very rude, and it's inconsiderate of pretty much everybody in the living space. Like, I know for a fact if I lived there, I'd be pissed off. I'd be like, dude, this is like a shared space that we all use. Your girlfriend can't put all her crap here and expect me to be okay with it. Like, I don't think so. So no, you're not overreacting. This is a completely normal reaction, and you have every right to be pissed off because this is some weird behavior and I don't blame you for being upset. My boyfriend has been stealing money from my business for quite a while now, and after telling him to stop multiple times, I'm now at a point where I really want to tell his mom about it to try and get through to him, because right now I'm very frustrated and I simply don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm a 25-year-old female and I'm really struggling with something in my relationship with my boyfriend, and I feel like I have no one to talk to about it. Basically, to put it bluntly, he has been taking money from my small business without asking. The first time it happened, he told me he needed to move the money into his account for house expenses, but I later found out that he just spent it. I stayed quiet to keep the peace, and after about a month, he eventually put the money back. Now, before any of this, I suggested that he get a second job since we had been talking about buying a house, but he refused and said that he would never do that, so I just dropped it. Later, I invited him to help me with my business, which is making bouquets, and I even offered to split profits with him. Recently, though, I discovered that he had taken all the money, both his share and mine, without telling me, and when I confronted him, he got defensive, said he needed it for the house, and was rude about it. The only reason I ever noticed was because the numbers were not adding up. I had already asked him not to use the money without permission, but he brushed it off and laughed like it was not serious. And now he has done it more than once, and when I brought it up again, he showed no remorse and started giving me the silent treatment. What hurts the most is that if he had simply asked me, I would have lent him the money, but instead he is sneaky, dismissive, and makes me feel like I'm wrong for questioning him. I've not told anyone about this, not even my parents, because I feel embarrassed and ashamed, but part of me really wants to call his mom and explain what has been happening, hoping that she might talk some sense into him. The problem is that I know he will see it as me embarrassing him or just being disrespectful by involving her in what he would call a private matter. What should I do? Okay, this is crazy in my opinion. Your boyfriend is stealing money from you and trying to pass it off and be like, oh, I need this. Also, you need to be quiet about this. And think about it for a second. Like, seriously, why would your boyfriend want you to be quiet about this? Why do you know he would be upset and try to be like, oh, this is private. Don't involve my mom in this. Well, that's because he knows what he's doing is wrong and he doesn't want any kind of like consequences because of it. He wants you to be the willing victim in this situation where he just basically robs you blind and steals money from your business. Like, that's all that's going on here. Because what's going to happen is he's going to take money out one day and he's not going to put the money back. And you're probably going to be the one to pay the price for that. And that is not fair for you at all. So in my opinion, you would not be the jerk by like spreading this around to his mom or pretty much anybody else. Because I really feel like he's doing this maliciously and it's only a matter of time before it gets really bad. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My coworker is quite literally one of the most annoying people I've had to deal with in a long time, putting me in a situation where I constantly have to deal with her garbage. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I've been working in the social field like healthcare, young welfare, and special needs for many years now. Right now, I work in a psychiatric clinic to further broaden my horizon and to prepare for additional exams and trainings. We got a new hire, and this person is someone I absolutely cannot stand. She's rude, she's breaking every rule about how to interact with colleagues, especially older and more experienced ones. And she does disgusting things, like handing out food to patients without gloves and pawing it with her bare, unwashed hands. Now, I tried to be the graceful senior, telling her in private that stuff like this is absolutely disgusting and nasty, and that she can feel lucky I'm telling her in a friendly manner, as other colleagues would have torn her a new one. Now, because we have some patients who are allowed to leave the ward for a while, and some who are absolutely forbidden from leaving because they would be a risk to themselves or to the public right now, we have a bouncer position at our door. At all times, a colleague has to sit there and check who's coming in and who wants to go out. Most people don't like this part of the job because it can feel isolated and you always have to ring someone to take over even if you need a short pee break. Now, every time I had a shift with this lady, I asked her to take over for a minute or two so I could use the restroom or just grab something that I needed. Well, every single time she said she would do it, in the end, she just left me hanging, like she needed to prepare a meal for a patient and was gone for like 20 minutes. But all she was doing was putting butter and chocolate spread on 2 pieces of toast. So either she's too incompetent to fix a slice of bread or she's just lazy. But it gets better. I learned many years ago to write the opening date on stuff I'm handing out, like coffee cream, milk for cocoa, etc. But also on hygienic products like disinfectant wipes because they have to get discarded if they get too old. Well, I sat at the door and she stormed out of the kitchen to berate me, screaming that there were wipes that weren't dated and that I should do this, that, and the other. And she had the audacity to do this in front of patients. I later grabbed her and I told her that if she ever pulls something like that ever again, I will talk with our supervisor and she will get kicked out for not being compatible with this kind of work, meaning that she would never get a job in psychiatric healthcare ever again, as long as it's not wiping the floors. I later also heard her gossiping about colleagues and their orientation, if you know what I mean. Like, duh, it's nothing that you should concern yourself about, so please shut up. But the best was 2 days later when I got to work and I needed to search for my shoes. This little idiot liked my locker and just decided that now it's hers. But luckily, I brought a good locket, which then leads me to my final sweet revenge. My locker is mine again, and her crap is locked in with my work shoes, which can be nasty at times. And if she wants it back, she has to tell our supervisor why she thought it's okay to just claim a locker that's not hers just because she liked the position of it. And sure, it is petty revenge, but my god, this lady absolutely deserves it. Man, I know exactly what you're talking about. Coworkers who act like this are so annoying, it's seriously just not even funny. You're trying to get along, you're trying to just do your job, and they're going out of their way to be annoying about it. So considering everything, I can completely understand why you're having problems with them because they sound incredibly obnoxious. Am I the jerk for kicking my brother-in-law out of his own house after he basically said he wanted to get a divorce from my sister? Because right now, after the fact, I'm being told that I made a mistake here, and I'm honestly just not sure what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my sister and her husband got married almost a decade ago. Around 6 months ago, he had an affair with this coworker, which my sister found out about after going through his phone. When I got this news, I was furious and immediately told her to get a divorce. She has a stable job and no kids, but she decided that she could find it in her to forgive him, and they have been trying couples therapy for some months now. After my initial disappointment at her decision, I came to the conclusion that there's not much I can do to change her mind. And this is all going well until like a week ago when I got a call from her crying, telling me to come over as I live about 10 minutes or so away. When I came to her apartment, she told me that he had decided that he wanted a divorce and was not willing to be married to her. Fast forward 30 minutes and he knocked on the front door and I told him to get out and not come back for at least a week. He then told me that he doesn't have any other place to go to and I can't stop him since his was his house too, but I closed the door right in his face. I then left my sister's apartment on Monday because I had to work, and I hadn't spoken to my sister since until about like 12 hours ago when she called me to say that they had decided against divorce and I should have not kicked him out of his house. This was immediately followed by a call from my mother telling me the exact same thing. I want to be there for my sister, but I have no desire to talk to her for at least a month. So am I the jerk here? Because honestly, I'm not sure if I made a mistake. Okay, in my opinion, I think you absolutely are the jerk. Why on earth are you getting involved in this, dude? You can't just show up to her house and be like, you have got to go. You can't come into the apartment you own. I'm sorry, but you need to leave. Come back in a week. Like, this is not some like sitcom or some kind of movie, dude. You can't do that to somebody. Like, in what universe can you somehow deny someone entrance into their own home? That's really dumb and not a smart idea in my opinion. So yeah, I think you're the jerk here. I think you should not have done that. And in the future, I would absolutely stay out of this crap because this does not sound like it's worth it even in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not letting my roommate pay less rent? All because I got a raise and my roommate found out about this. Because right now she's saying that I'm a jerk and that I'm being unreasonable, and at this point I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I live with a female roommate who is also in her 20s. We're friends from college and we have been living together for about a year now. We agreed from day one to split rent and bills 50-50. The apartment is pretty even in terms of space and amenities, so that felt fair for the both of us. I work in a field that pays decently, and recently I got a raise. I mentioned it in passing, I mean I wasn't bragging or anything like that, but ever since then, my roommate has been acting a bit off. A week ago, she sat me down and said that she thinks I should pay more of the rent now, especially since I make more and I can afford it. And on top of that, she works in a lower paying job. I told her I understand that she might be having a harder time financially, but we agreed to a 50-50 split, and nothing about the apartment itself has changed. I'm not living in a bigger room or using more utilities. We both benefit equally. She then said I'm being unfair and selfish by not adjusting the split to reflect our different income levels, and now all of a sudden I'm a jerk. I pointed out that just because I make more doesn't mean that I don't have my own financial goals and responsibilities. I've got stuff like student loans and I'm helping my family out, and I'm simply just trying to save money. I also feel like it's not right to be penalized for earning more. Like, what is going on? Especially when the agreement was clear from the start. She thinks I'm being cold and all about money, and I think she's being entitled and trying to guilt me into something that we never agreed to. Things have been really tense ever since then, but honestly, I need to know. Am I the jerk because this is such a dumb situation that I just don't know what to do? Okay, someone in the comments section said this, and I really agree with this, because they basically asked the question, wait a second, why should you finance them? And I completely agree. Literally nothing has changed about the original poster. They still live in the same apartment, they don't have any changes in like the living space they're living in, but the only thing that has changed is how much money they're making. Which, by the way, I gotta be honest, you should have never said anything about this to your roommate, or anyone for that matter, because crap like this can happen. Especially from selfish people, like they come out of the woodworks and they're like, oh yeah, you could be the one to pay for stuff now that you have all this money. Like anytime money's involved in any kind of conversation, you're pretty much rolling the dice of whether they're going to be like reasonable people or they're going to try and expect something out of you like this. And I bet that raise wasn't even that much. Like seriously, this is so dumb. So truly, you are not the jerk here. You absolutely have no obligation to change the amount that you pay for rent. And I think your friend in this situation is being incredibly entitled. Am I the jerk for not giving a discount to a kid after they tried to buy my merchandise at a local craft fair last weekend? Because after I said no, you gotta pay full price, this kid's dad gets involved and makes me feel like garbage, making me question if I made a mistake because this honestly was incredibly upsetting. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so I was vending at a local craft fair last weekend, and I make little crochet dolls and accessories, and they've been pretty popular with my friends and acquaintances, so I thought I'd try selling them for once and just see if I liked it. I price everything pretty cheap, all things considered, and I mostly just wanted to make enough to cover my table fee and maybe get a nice lunch afterwards. I usually just give my stuff away for free, so my friends had to kind of push me to price things appropriately at all. I had a pretty straightforward display with all the prices on signs in front of the items. Now, around halfway through the day, a dad and his kid, who was maybe 8 years old, I think, were lingering around my area of the craft fair and looking over it. I'd seen them walk past my table and look a few times, but I didn't want to be a pushy salesperson, so I just smiled and I kept busy crocheting in my lap. After a while, the kid finally came up and asked for one of the dolls on display. Well, I told her the price and she handed me a few bills that were maybe like a third of the price and said that was all that she had. Now, I was tempted to just let her have it, but there was a lot of time left at the fair to sell things to people at full price, and I thought it was kind of weird that her dad had seemingly told her to haggle with me that low when my prices are low already. So I just told her that I'm sorry, it's the price on the sign, and she got upset and said that she really wanted it. But I straight up told her the doll cost more than what she had. has, and I just handed the money back to her. She then whined for a little bit, but eventually she ran back to her dad. Well, the dad then came up to me and asked me if I was really not going to let a little girl have a doll and that my prices were ridiculous. I didn't really know what to say, so I just kind of stared awkwardly for a moment before repeating that the prices are on the signs and apologizing again. He kind of grumbled that I was ridiculous again, and him and his kid eventually walked off. They kept passing by for like an hour afterwards and glaring at me, and before they left, the dad came up again and asked me if I ever made any sales with this kind of business practice. Now, I didn't want to argue with him anymore, so I just kind of ignored him, and I smiled at someone else walking by, but he stood there glaring at me for a really long minute and then just stomped off. I feel like a jerk because under normal circumstances, I do just give away my stuff, and if it had been closer to the end of the day, I might have been more open to haggling just to have less stuff to take home. But I didn't like that the kid seemed to kind of expect that I just give her my hard work for less just without any kind of reason. Plus, her dad could have easily forked over the rest of the money if he really wanted her to have the doll. At the same time though, I kind of priced things with the hopes that anybody who really wanted something could probably afford it, and I wasn't exactly out there with a goal of making a ton of money, so I felt like I was being kind of inconsistent with telling her no on principle. But regardless, am I the jerk here? Because right now I'm not sure if I made a mistake. Okay, this really is upsetting because holy crap. I think the dad in the story is a piece of garbage, and the fact that he got away with this for so long, in my opinion, is proof that yeah, you need to stand up for yourself and probably call security next time. The first time of him being like, wow, these prices are too high, like that would be the first and only straw with this situation, where I would just say to them, agree to disagree, get out of my space. But the fact that he came back and tried it again, almost trying to demean your business and be like, wow, did you make any money today? That would have been the moment where I call up whoever I need to, whether that's like security or management for this local craft fair, and been like, hey, get this guy away from me, he's being weird, because this kind of behavior is crazy. He really thought he could haggle down and like argue your prices. Like, dude, what are you doing? From the sounds of it, this stuff is already cheap as it is. If he really wanted his daughter to have it, he would have gone in and been like, okay, I'll cover the rest of it. But instead, he wants to give you a hard time as if like, oh man, why can't you give this to my daughter? Come on, give it to her for a third of the price. It's not that big of a deal. Like, what a loser, good lord. So no, you're not the jerk. You absolutely should not have given that stupid kid any kind of discount, especially when your prices are very easy and obviously like super affordable, because that's super condescending and very toxic, especially with him coming back later just to try and argue once again. My mom has blamed me for her relationship falling apart, despite the fact that she was the one that made it all fall apart and I literally didn't do anything wrong, because right now I'm honestly kind of hurt by this and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So I love my dad and he's the greatest person in the world, and I've only known him, like really gotten to know him for like a year of my life. The problem is that he's not my real dad. He's my mother's now ex-fiancé, and she blames me for their relationship failing. We moved to his house last year in July of 2025, but the problem started back in October of 2024 when I called him dad for the first time. Now, dad and myself and every other reasonable person I've told recognizes what this really is about. It's not about protecting me at all, because there was never a threat in the first place. It's always been about jealousy. My mom has been extremely jealous ever since we started getting close from the start of October, but she was subtly controlling from the very beginning. It's been a year and she doesn't realize that the way she was acting is exactly what pushed him away. There was this occasion where I asked him to buy me a pen because mine had run out of ink, and she actually went nuts over that. Then there was a time that I helped him out with yard work without telling her, and again, she was infuriated. Every time we spend time together, like him taking me to go buy seeds and gardening tools at Walmart, or just us going out to get some ice cream, it's always a problem. And the crazy part is that she always wanted him to take care of me and be a father figure, but as soon as he starts acting in that role, it's always a problem. Yes, I understand she feels excluded, but the only reason she started to be excluded is because she showed that ugly part of her character, and this didn't happen overnight. It was very gradual, these events occurring over months at a time. When we brought my dog home in March of 2025, she even started getting jealous of the attention that he gave to the dog. A lot of really crazy stuff happened this summer, but in short, I don't live with him or her any longer, and my absence has taken a toll on both my dad and my dog, and now they both hate her for it. After the dust settled, she tried to convince me that he was really just a bad guy and trying to exploit me. Now, I can recognize when someone is a bad person in the way that she was trying to describe describe, if you know what I mean. And I know what it is because I've had this kind of thing happen to me before, unfortunately. And when it happens, my brothers are always the first to know, and they're always the ones to resolve the problem and protect me. My dad has never been anything but kind and understanding. He's never made me uncomfortable, and he always knocked before entering my room, and most of the time, he didn't even want to be in my room. When she couldn't convince me that he was some kind of creepy person, she switched it up and said that it was my fault because I was so disrespectful or whatever. Like, it really seems like she was just pulling it straight out of her butt. I'm going to get away from her as fast as I possibly can because this entire scenario is incredibly annoying, and I'm just not sure what to do. Yeah, your mom absolutely is a control freak. Like, the original poster kind of clarifies that because holy crap, this is so weird. Like, from the sounds of it, she couldn't stand the fact that you were getting any kind of attention. Here you are, her 17-year-old daughter, trying to, like, I don't know, connect with her fiance, and she's like, oh, I can't have that. That is not okay. But it's like, dude, why not? Like, what's the problem here? Nothing wrong is happening, and the guy doesn't sound like a bad person. So for your mom to fly off the handle like that just seems really weird in my opinion. So hopefully this gets resolved in some way, and I'm so sorry that things kind of fell apart for you, because from the sounds of it, this guy was really nice, and it sounds like your mom just completely ruined that. My sister-in-law flipped out at me, all because I didn't serve her kids some food at a family event, saying that I was being cold and making her feel unwelcome, all because I didn't step up and take care of her kid. And now I feel really hurt and I just don't know what to do. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so last weekend during a casual family lunch at my place, I had invited my in-laws over for nothing really fancy, but just some homemade pasta, some garlic bread, and some salad. Everyone was serving themselves buffet style from the kitchen counter, and I'd made sure everything was kid-friendly as well, since my sister-in-law, let's call her Marie, was bringing her 7-year-old son. When they arrived, we said our hellos and everyone headed over to grab their plates. I helped my toddler first, then started serving myself while chatting with my mother-in-law. Now, Marie was on her phone and her son was just standing near her, looking kind of lost, but I figured that she would help him once she noticed. About 10 minutes later, everyone's at the table eating, and her kid is still wandering around without a plate. I then quietly asked Marie if he needed help, and that's when she snapped at me and said that I should have served him like everyone else. Well, I told her that I assumed that she would want to fix his plate, since I didn't know what he liked or how much he would like to eat. But she rolled her eyes and got up in a huff and loudly said something like, oh, I guess it's just too much to expect some basic help. Well, when Marie said that, it made everything super awkward. I felt bad, but also kind of irritated. It wasn't like I ignored her kid, I genuinely just thought that she had it covered. I also don't feel great about being scolded like that in front of everyone when I was just trying to host and feed a group of 8. Later on, my husband told me that Marie texted him saying that I was cold and made her feel unwelcome, but he said not to take it personally. Now, I like Marie, but I don't think I was being rude or neglectful. So seriously, was I overreacting for feeling annoyed and a bit hurt by this? Because I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong and I just don't know what to do. Okay, first and foremost, you didn't overreact and you're not at fault here. Marie's a complete moron. You're telling me that someone who has a kid with her, who brought her kid with her to this family event, is somehow unable to take care of her own child? Like, what is going on right now? How did the responsibility of her kid somehow get slapped on your shoulders all of a sudden while she's on her phone just doing nothing? Because you've got it right, absolutely right in my opinion. This is not your kid, you don't know this kid as well as Marie does, and you don't even know if he likes any of the food in front of him. And you know what? I'm willing to bet that even if you did help this kid out and get him a plate, Marie would still freak out and be like, wow, he doesn't like that. Why would you try to force my kid into having food that he doesn't like? What's wrong with you? And then the same conversation would happen with your husband where she's like, oh yeah, you were cold and neglectful. You made me feel unwelcome. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? From the sounds of it, Marie came there to be like super rude and aggressive for no reason. And in my opinion, this is just me, but the second someone comes to my house and acts like that, that's the last time they're ever going to be welcome at my place until I get an apology. Especially with them announcing, oh, I guess it's too much to expect some basic help. Because I would have responded by being like, oh, I guess it's too much to be a mother. Like, what's going on right now? Take care of your own kid. It's not my responsibility. Like, for me, I don't even care that much about the kid. Like, I don't care. Do whatever you want. But he's standing there awkwardly, wandering around without a plate, and you're not doing your job as a parent, and it's like, okay, what's going on right now, dude? Either step up and get him some food, or else I guess I'll step up and try and do it. So yeah, Marie's completely ignorant and very rude. You didn't do anything wrong, and in my opinion, she owes you an apology. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would be texting her right back and giving her a strong piece of my mind, because that kind of garbage absolutely does not fly with me. My entitled parents are giving away my car to my sibling, all because my sibling doesn't have a car that works and they need something to get around. And despite the fact that we agreed I could store my car at their place place while working in a big city, they still refuse to consult me first about giving my car away to a sibling that I know will not take care of it. And now because of this, I am seriously considering cutting my family off because this is a serious violation of my trust and I just simply don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, my parents bought both my older siblings who are 2 years older, as well as myself, brand new cars when we turned 16. The deal was that they get us the first one, and what we do with it is up to us. While my siblings ran their car into the ground and never treated it with care, as they literally had multiple accidents and never washed it or maintained it, etc. On the other hand, I absolutely cherish mine. I did frequent maintenance, I washed it, I did detailing on it, and as a result, it ran like a dream. Well, I recently moved for work to a big city where you don't really need a car, with plans of leaving in 3 years. I then asked my parents if I could keep my car at their second home, thinking that it was helping me and them out, because for context, they didn't have a vehicle there and they could absolutely use the help. And when I offered this, they said no problem. And it's important to note that the entire idea was that I will take my car back in 3 years when I leave the city. Well, about a few months ago, my father started making comments about giving the car to my sibling because their car was in such bad shape and how they needed a new one. And it's important to note that because the conversation was never like, oh, let's let them borrow it while you're not using it, but instead it was completely gifting them the car entirely. Now, I repeatedly said I was not okay with this, and I planned on taking my car back in a few years, and I worried that they wouldn't care for my car in the way that I've kept it maintained. Now, this is where things get a little bit tricky. When I stored the car at their house, I signed it over to them in case anything happened, and since we live in different parts of the country. But now, they're telling me that there's nothing I can do about it, and they're giving my sibling the car, to the point where they shipped it back across the country and asked me to sign a document gifting it to them. Now, it's not about the monetary value of the car, as my father offered to pay me for it, maybe a few $1,000s, but it's really about the fact that the car is completely paid off and it runs great. I also wasn't even planning on getting a new car when moving because I won't be able to afford it. And now because of all of this, I'm seriously considering cutting my family off. I mean, my father is just completely going against my wishes and gifting my perfectly good car to my sibling when I have begged him not to do it. He is completely unwilling to hear me out as to why I don't want him to give it to them, and essentially telling me that I have no say in the matter, not caring about the position it will put me in a few years when I move and need a car. And mind you, I have over $200,000 in student loans I'm trying to aggressively pay off, while also saving for a house and starting a family. Now, when it comes to my sibling, I tried to originally resolve the issue with my father, as he was the only one who made this decision. But when he said he was still gifting the car, I called my sibling and I apologized, saying that they couldn't have it, and was abruptly just shut down by them saying, "I'm not talking to you about this." And they said that over and over again. And you know what? I was honestly in a state of shock. I thought surely if they knew this wasn't something I agreed to, they would immediately say that they weren't accepting the car because it is wrong. But instead, it seems like they have no problem taking it from me with no remorse of what it will do to me, and they're just unwilling to also hear me out. Now, my mother just keeps saying, "Oh, I'm not getting involved." And my issue with this is that she told my father he needed to call me to discuss because he was deciding to do all these things. You know, like shipping my car across the country and then telling my sibling they can have it, which to me seems like she knows that what's happening is wrong, but instead she's choosing to feign ignorance. She won't talk to me about it at all, except to tell me to leave my sibling alone and that this is not their fault and that my father decided to do this. I am honestly shocked about this entire situation and how everyone is acting like me being upset is completely ridiculous. I'm thinking about cutting them off because if they can act this way, then I just don't want to be associated with people like this. If they were my friends and not family, I wouldn't think twice about cutting them off. But regardless of what happens with the car, I still think I want to cut ties with them because why would I want people like this in my life who are unable to recognize that what they're doing is wrong? But with that in mind, I'm also really struggling with actually cutting ties with them. So seriously, am I overreacting here? Because right now I just don't know what to do. Okay, holy crap, I completely understand where the original poster is coming from here, because this would be infuriating. First and foremost, I don't think you ever should have signed that car over to them. Like, honestly, I think that was a huge mistake, and that probably gave them leverage to be like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna give this car away, and there's nothing you can do about it." Because essentially, in 3 years, they're putting you in a spot where you're not gonna have a vehicle to get around in. Like, I'm sorry, if the other sibling wants to have a car, then maybe take care of the one you do have, instead of just waiting for you to, like, not be available, and then take your car. Because the original poster is right here. They've put a lot of time into taking care of this car, they've maintained it, they've washed it, they've done detailing on it, and now suddenly the dad's like, oh, this car's in good shape. Let me send it off to your sibling who won't take care of it. Because yeah, that's exactly what's gonna happen here. They are probably going to drive it into the ground, and that is not fair for you at all. Like truly, that is not okay in my opinion. Now, it's hard to say whether or not you should cut them off. Like, I don't know your family like you do, obviously, and I don't think anybody in the comments section of this video is gonna have any idea the nuance that you guys go through. But based on your reasons alone, I can understand where you're coming from. And I think maybe you're just a little too close to this to have any kind of like outside perspective. So in my mind, maybe taking a step back and having some room to breathe would really do you good, because this is obviously like right in front of your face and it's very triggering and it's very difficult. But I just don't think now's the time to make any kind of like rash decision. Like for me, and this is just my opinion, I would try to get this resolved first and then go back to them and be like, look, this has got to stop. And then based on that interaction, we can make some kind of decision about whether or not you want to be around them. But I think doing it in the heat of the moment is just not a good idea. So no, you're not overreacting. Like your anger is completely justified. Please do not misunderstand me. But I really think that making any kind of like rash decision right now would be a terrible move, because there really is a chance this might get resolved, and I would just hate to like eliminate that possibility in the future. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my fiance's best friend move in with us after my husband volunteered our home without even asking me first? Because right now I'm still kind of pissed off about this and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my husband's best friend just broke up with his longtime girlfriend and needs a place to stay. And my sweet husband immediately offered our place without asking me first. He said his friend, who we will call Chris, could crash in our guest room just for a few months until he got back on his feet. And when he said this, I was quite taken aback. I mean, the dude is just having an emotional breakdown. Why house him for months at a time? Now, I do like Chris, he is fine, but he also is very messy. He leaves dishes everywhere, he never cleans up, and when we've hung out in the past, he's always borrowing stuff without asking. Like, the dude just takes things like he owns them. I know if he moves in, I'll end up being the one dealing with the mess because my husband is way more laid back. I told my husband that I wasn't comfortable turning our new home into a bachelor pad right after moving in together. And yes, we just built it and we are newlyweds. Now, back to the story. I said that Chris could stay for a couple of weekends if he really needs to, but not months at a time. My husband then got frustrated and said that I was being selfish and that if it was him, he would never leave any of my friends hanging. But now this whole thing has turned into a bigger fight. Some of my friends agreed with me and understood that we're just starting out our lives together and we need space to bond without interference, but some of his friends and even my brother said that I should be more understanding because in life we have to render help to those in need. I mean, I get where they're coming from, but how does a relationship breakup break down a man? My husband is still angry with me, but seriously, am I the jerk here? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, for me, I don't think you're the jerk at all. Mostly because you said it best. Like, you guys are newlyweds, you just built this house, and now your husband's basically like volunteering the house just so his friend can move in, all because he's going through a rough time. And it doesn't sound like this guy's gonna be homeless or anything like that. It just seems like he's going through a hard time, and it's like, okay, like, what's going on right now? So no, you're not the jerk. I think your husband's being very weird, and that is unfair for you. Especially with him not asking you first about this guy moving in. Like, that's kind of intrusive, and I would not be okay with that. Am I the jerk for wanting my dead father's motorcycle back after his best friend took it and refuses to give it back to me? Because even though this bike is rightfully mine, I want to sell it so that I can pay for all of my dad's funeral services and so I can keep my father's house from getting foreclosed. Because right now I'm really being left with no options and I just seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, let me first say that I don't really think I'm the jerk here, but honestly, I'll let you be the judge of that. So to start things out, my father died and him and I were really close. So his death was super hard on me. My father also didn't have life insurance, meaning that it was left to me to really fund everything that comes with someone passing. He did, however, have a few assets, of which the most pricey was his fairly new bike. Now, this motorcycle in question was bought in cash and belonged only to him. Also, the price of the bike would have paid off most of his bills and his funeral, so I was planning to just sell it right then and there. Well, his best friend, who I'll call Richard, had the bike in his possession because he was given the keys by my dad's girlfriend, who I will call Mary, who's someone he was dating for about 4 weeks. And Mary gave Richard the bike because she didn't know how to ride it. Now, I was okay with this at first because I trusted her and him to keep it safe. As his child and the only one that he spoke to, it was all left to me to gather the funds to do what needed to be done. And you know what? Richard knew this. From the very beginning, I told Richard that I had no funds myself and I needed to sell the bike to pay for everything. I also want to say that his friends and Richard did raise money to help, and my family also helped, but it just wasn't enough. I had to borrow a large sum of money in order to keep from losing the house, house and to pay for his service bills extra. And now I'm left with a pile of my dad's bills, his house that is buried in mortgage, and no dad, who truly was my anchor in life. Ever since the services, Richard and Mary have apparently gotten together and no longer speak to me. They refuse to answer my calls or return the bike that is still in Richard's possession. It appears that Mary told Richard that my dad wanted him to have the bike, and now he claims that the bike is his and that I should stop bothering him. I only text him to return the bike so that I can get it sold off, just so I can pay for the services, because the funeral home gave me a deadline. He said he was going to return it at first, but never told me when, and on top of that, when he set a date to drop it off, he just never showed up, and this continued for a couple of months. But I really only texted him like 5 or 6 times in like 4 months, and I even stopped calling after he stopped answering. I tried to reach out to his friends or family to get him to meet with me, because at first I was clueless because Richard just stopped talking to me and never really told me why. I had to borrow the money for the services, but I'm still dealing with all of the other debts. Now, I don't know if what Mary said was true, as she does not speak to me or anybody else in my family anymore, and there was also nobody left, and Richard has no legal rights to the bike. So am I the jerk for wanting him to return the bike so that I can sell it in order to pay for my dad's bills and just keep the family home? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I don't know how to fix this. Okay, first and foremost, no, you are not the jerk. Richard and Mary are completely out of line. They're being so obnoxious here. Like, seriously, it's not their bike. And the fact that they're giving you the runaround and trying to be like, oh yeah, we'll get it back to you, only to them be like, yeah, we're not gonna do it now. We're just gonna skate by and do it later. Like, they're just stringing you along over and over again. That is so unfair. So no, you're not the jerk. I would sell that thing immediately. It would literally pay for everything from the sounds of it, and it's just so stupid to keep it around. And if there is a case that, yeah, this is your bike, I would probably even get like a lawyer involved or maybe the police, because in my eyes, and I can only speak for myself, it kind of seems like they've stolen the bike that is rightfully yours, and it is highly inappropriate for them to keep it any longer and not give it back. Today, I got petty revenge on my neighbor after they kept blocking my driveway in a way that made it really hard for me to back out. Because after I returned the favor and did the exact same thing to him, he realized very quickly that this was not a cool thing to do, as he very promptly corrected his behavior in a way that I think he will never forget. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this has been driving me insane for like 3 months now. My neighbor parks his massive truck just enough over the edge of my driveway that I can still technically get out, but I have to do this ridiculous multi-point turn every single morning. Now, I've asked him about this twice. The first time he was like, oh, my bad, but then he just kept on doing it. And the second time, he literally just goes, oh, there's still enough room though, and then just walks back inside. Like, dude, come on, are you kidding me right now? Anyways, last Tuesday, I see him outside doing yard work, and his truck is in the usual spot, and it's right here that I get my petty revenge. I decided to park my car directly behind it in the street, not necessarily blocking his driveway or anything illegal, but instead just making it so he would have to do some weird maneuvers just to back out. Well, sure enough, 20 minutes later, there's a knocking on my door. He's all annoyed, asking me to move my car, but I just smiled real big and said, I mean, there's still room. You just got to do a few extra turns to get out. Now, the look on his face was absolutely priceless, but because I did this, he hasn't parked anywhere near my driveway ever since then, so I would say that's a message received and a problem solved. Okay, I love this because this is so true. Like, this is the classic case of getting a taste of your own medicine and just not liking it one bit. So good for the original poster, because from the sounds of it, their neighbor deserved to get treated like this. An entitled jerk hits my sister's car and completely totals it, but instead of just paying the measly $350 that it would cost to like settle all of this genius decides to go to court instead, resulting in them not only losing the case, but also having to pay a couple $1,000s more that I'm sure they were not expecting. Here's how it happened. Okay, so this happened back in the day in 2006, and it's right about this time that my big sister had just started driving on her own. Now, my parents did as what most parents would do at the time, where they bought her the biggest pile of crap car they could possibly find. It was relatively reliable, but it was a gold Geo Metro from the 80s. It was a beater, rusty, dented, and dinged, and it was very ugly, and importantly for this story, one of the mirrors was duct taped on. One afternoon in the fading light, she was driving to our local Pizza Hut to pick up her paycheck, and on that fateful day, as the sun was going down, someone in a big black suburban type vehicle backed into her front driver's side pretty hard. So hard, in fact, that the car was completely totaled, but luckily my sister was fine. Now, both parties had insurance, and they called the police to take an official report, and my parents started to hunt for a new car. Well, some time passes and they get a letter from the Suburban's insurance agency asking for our insurance to cover the cost of the damage done to the Suburban. The Suburban driver was alleging that my sister had been speeding through the parking lot and was therefore at fault. Well, this was news to my parents, so they grilled my sister, who swore up and down and sideways that she was not speeding, and actually that she was just going much slower than normal because as the sun was setting, it was hitting the windshield in such a way that really made visibility accessibility difficult. In fact, after some digging, they found in the police report, the sheriff's deputy had noted that the mirror that was duct taped on fell straight down. So not only had my sister not been speeding, but she was very nearly or completely stopped at the time of the incident. Well, my parents' insurance sent a letter back stating that my sister had not been at fault for the incident, and they were willing to accept the total. I mean, they had paid for the car several months earlier, which was a paltry sum of like $350. Well, the lady who hit my sister responded back that she would not be paying for anything, as she was very confident that she was not at fault, and even told my parents that they would just have to take her to small claims court. Well, when my parents heard that, they responded by being like, okay, go for it, and did exactly that. In order to get all the paperwork in line for a small claims court, they had to take this crappy little Geo Metro to an auto body shop and get an estimate for how much it would cost to replace the panels that this lady had completely totaled. Well, a car that old was difficult to find parts for, and so they were unable to find anything to replace the panels and the door. So they gave her a quote for how much it would be to repair those panels, as well as replace the tire and suspension bits that she literally messed up by backing into it, and that totaled out to about $4,000. Now, just before court, they did attempt to go to mediation with her, just in some kind of attempt to get her to pay $350 that they had initially bought the car for, but unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, she was still convinced that she was not at fault. Well, long story short, my parents were awarded the full $4,000, and it was determined that the lady did not check behind her thoroughly enough before backing out of the parking spot. And that, my friends, is how my parents made over $3,000 on a $300 car. Dude, imagine being so stupid that you're like, oh, we're going to court over this. $350 is unfair. I'm not going to pay that at all. I'm going to prove that she was speeding. But it's like, dude, clearly she was not speeding, and clearly you're the one at fault. You were obviously not watching where you were going, and this absolutely falls on your shoulders. So good for your parents for following through with this. I'm sure they had a field day after this, especially because of the fact that they literally made money off of this, which is something I'm sure they never expected. Today, I had a customer say that they're going to leave a bad Google review with my name on it, all because they had apparently reserved a table that I didn't know about. And now I'm honestly not sure if I'm at fault, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, for a bit of context, I work at a casual fine dining restaurant. It is one of the most popular restaurants in my city, and we use Open Tables as a reservation system. And if you know about Open Table, you know that it allows you to make notes. Typically, the host gives us printed information regarding the booking. And tonight, we only had one host for a busy Saturday. She can only do so much, so I did not receive any kind of information. And typically, our restaurant encourages us to ask guests if they are celebrating anything, but I did not ask this specific table, as I had just gotten triple sat, and I felt it necessary to get my spiel out and greet my other tables. The table in question is a 4-top, and the second this 4-top sits down, I feel this weird, rude energy coming right from them. I also have a 10-top of drunken ladies celebrating a birthday at one of my other tables, and I keep seeing them looking over at the 10-top, side-eyeing them in a judgmental way, and they were all around just giving this weird energy. Now, in this situation, I always send a manager to touch the table just so I can cover my rear end. But this time, I ignored my tuition and I never informed a manager. Throughout the course of the meal, they barely say anything to me. We serve small plates, typically in courses, and all but one lady at the table ordered one course. And usually, people do multiple plates as I addressed in my spiel. Now, I will admit, I forgot to ring in her second course as I had gotten triple sat, but it's here that she pulls one of my fellow servers aside and asked him where it was. He then takes the initiative and gets the dish working as he knows that I'm just way too busy right now. I touch the table to let them know that it's on the way, and for reference, I checked on them multiple times. Well, fast forward to the end of the meal and I drop a menu for them to review the dessert options. They then just ask for the check and say they are ready to leave. Now, I bring it promptly and I close them out, and they eventually leave as well. But apparently, after closing out, they ask the hostess behind my back for my name, and they express that they booked the reservation as a birthday, and this wasn't acknowledged, and a dish was laid, and overall, they just had a really crappy experience. Well, the host does all the right things and actually asks for a manager, but the lady says no as it's too late and that they will be posting a Google review with my name in it. So seriously, was I solely at fault in this situation? There was ample opportunity to address that something was wrong and to confront me about it, but instead they complained to the hostess, who very obviously has nothing to do with service. I try not to let these things bother me, but I am not exactly happy to know that my name is going to be mentioned in a negative review where anybody who Googles our restaurant can see it. What should I do? Okay, this is absolutely not your fault in my opinion, and if anything, this falls on the customer. Seriously, who goes to a restaurant and then just sits there and doesn't say anything about reserving a table? Why wait until the end of it just to then be like, oh, we're gonna post a bad review, just you wait. Like, was that their plan the entire time? Sit there and be like, oh, let's see if they forget. Oh my god, I wonder if they're gonna forget about a reservation. When like in reality, she could have been like, hey, actually, I think we have a reserved table. Could you look into that? And then just like that, it would have been fixed. But instead, they decided to take the petty route and be like, oh, we're gonna complain now. Like, they didn't want this fixed or resolved in any kind of way. They just wanted to make you look bad in the process, and that is so messed up. So no, I don't think you're at fault at all, because minor mistakes absolutely happen all the time in whatever job you're doing. And the fact that the customers stay quiet about all of this, in my opinion, is their fault and not yours. My entitled neighbors who I share a house with turned their upstairs portion into an Airbnb party house, putting me and my wife in a position where we literally could not get any sleep, as there would be a party going on at all hours of the night, regardless of the day. But after dealing with this for so long, I decided to get some petty revenge by not only shutting off the breaker to the house, but also deflating the tires of any guest that would come over and stay the night, eventually leading to the Airbnb receiving bad reviews all before we moved out. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that this is something I actually did 6 years ago. For starters, my wife and I used to live in the basement apartment of a 2-story house, and the upstairs neighbors decided to rent out his upstairs apartment floor to Airbnb guests during the week as a party rental. And when I say party rental, I'm talking like 8 to 20 people would rent this place out, and there was no off limits to when this could happen. It could be Monday to Thursday, Wednesday to Saturday, or just the weekend. And honestly, it was really stressful for my wife and I because I had started a new job and she was still getting her master's degree. The landlord was a friend of the upstairs neighbor and was totally okay with it. And at first, it was kind of tame, but then it got out of hand, especially when there were parties of at least like 16 people upstairs. Now, I tried reasoning with the upstairs neighbor, but nothing ever worked out. So what I decided to do was to mess with the Airbnb guests themselves to ruin their weekend. And I did it in 3 ways. For starters, I would kick them off the Wi-Fi router. I would just log in as an admin on the router and then look for new devices and then just kick them off. It was kind of funny because I could hear people upstairs complain that they had no internet, so I truly got a lot of satisfaction out of that one. Secondly, I would deflate their tires and make it look like there was something wrong with their car. Now, what I would do is go out in the parking lot out back at night, remove the tire caps off one of the 2 tires per car, and insert a small pebble into the cap, and then put it back on the valve stem, depress the plunger on the valve stem so it would leak very slowly over time. And then the next morning, the tires would be deflated, and the guests' morning or day plans would be completely ruined, as they would have to take the time to inflate their tires all over again. And on one occasion, someone called AAA just to have someone come out with a tire inflator. But the third thing I did is by far my favorite thing I ever did to any of the guests. And what I did was mess with the circuit breakers upstairs. All the circuit breakers were in the garage, that, by the way, I had easy access to from the basement apartment, and conveniently enough, the breaker panel was labeled with which room for which breaker. So if there's a party going on directly above my head where my wife and I were trying to sleep on a weeknight, I would go to the breaker panel and just switch the breaker off. And if it got too loud and it kept getting rowdy, I would just shut off the living room and dining room breakers and leave them off for like 20 minutes and then just flip them back on again. And if I was really sick of it, I would just turn off the breakers for the night and the one in the kitchen, and that would literally cause the fridge to shut down. And I'm pretty sure on more than one occasion, the food would really go bad in the fridge. Now, some of you might be thinking that's mean to take it out on the guests and not the guy upstairs who's hosting the Airbnb, and I think that's true, but this has been going on for so long, and I'd lost so many nights of sleep due to the partying upstairs that I just didn't really care. The Airbnb did start getting bad reviews for non-functional Wi-Fi and electricity problems, which really made it all completely worth it. In the end, we only could endure about 3 months of this crap before my wife and I found a much better apartment. Dude, I love this so much. I wish I had the guts to do something like this because I've had some crappy neighbors and dude, this would have been so nice to do. Like, I can understand you trying to like kick people off the Wi-Fi. Like, that is inherently like not that bad if you think about it. But to actually deflate someone's tires and shut off the breaker to basically ruin their food in the fridge, like, holy crap, that is a brave decision to make. That's a pretty bold decision in my opinion, and I just don't think I have the guts to even come close to doing something like that. But regardless, I'm a big fan of what you did, and I think it's absolutely hilarious because ruining this guy's Airbnb business, in my opinion, takes precedent over anybody else's feelings, especially if they're going to disrespect you at all hours of the night. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled college student decides to make my life really miserable by the way they act every time they show up at my desk, forcing me to put them in their place in a way they will never forget. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to lead off by saying that this might be the pettiest I've ever behaved, but this person absolutely deserved it. So I have this part-time on-campus job as a front desk proctor at one of the dorms at northeastern Boston. Basically, I sit there, I check IDs, and I let residents and their guests into the dorms. It's a pretty straightforward job. The setup is simple. There's a desk in the middle, an entry door on my left, an exit on my right, and the card reader is on my right side of the desk. The normal process is people walk up to the front of the desk, they show their ID, they tap it, and then I let them in. It takes about 30 seconds and everyone does it this way. Well, that is, except for this one girl. She decides that standing at the front is just way too much work, I guess. So she walks past the entire front desk and stands on my left side near the entrance, expecting me to turn completely around, take her card, turn back to my right to tap it, then turn around again to give it back to her. She did this a couple of times and I was already annoyed, but whatever. I was busy with my own work and I didn't want to deal with it. But then she comes back later with her friend, putting on this fake accent, trying to impress them, and does the same thing again. Now her friend is standing at the front desk all confused like a normal person and quietly asks me, are we allowed to stand here? And this girl literally says with full attitude, yeah, it's more convenient for me to stand here than over there. And that's when I lost it internally. I took both their cards and signed them in, and instead of turning around to hand them back like she expected, I straight up slammed both cards on the far right end of the desk, complete opposite side from where she was standing. I then gave them a dead stare and went right back to my laptop like I just didn't care. Well, her friend had to awkwardly walk all around just to grab the cards, while Miss Convenient stood there processing what just happened. If it's convenient for you to make me turn around, then it's convenient for me to make you walk all the way around. Simple as that. Because sometimes you just gotta give people a reality check without saying a single word. Okay, I love this so much because holy crap, setting healthy boundaries works. Someone in the comment section said that and I couldn't agree more. Someone also asked the question I was thinking of, which is basically, okay, well, did this stop any of this behavior? Like, did she start standing on the correct side of the desk when she's coming into the dorms? And the original poster actually confirmed that yes, this corrected the behavior. So this is a complete success in my opinion. Like, this is amazing. This is absolutely the way it should be, and I just love that this worked out. Because every now and then, people like this absolutely need to be put in their place. My entitled boomer coworker let a customer leave our store without paying for their items. And despite the fact that I literally explained to her exactly what went wrong, she refused to listen to me until the very last second, allowing them to walk out with items they didn't pay for, which is something that absolutely could have been prevented. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this week, my boomer coworker was not paying any attention while cashiering. The customer put in their card into the card reader incorrectly, and the card reader did not read it at all. The customer then grabbed their bag and just walked out, and as they were walking out, I told my coworker that their payment hadn't gone through. She didn't believe me and pointed to the screen, saying that they had paid, but it was pretty obvious that they didn't. I mean, if they had done so, the transaction would have been approved and the does the customer want a receipt option would have popped up. I then told her again that their payment didn't go through because they put their card in wrong, and I just pointed to the screen. She thought I was talking about the next customers that just walked up and said, oh, of course their payment didn't go through. They're new, they just got here. And I'm thinking to myself, are you kidding me right now? I told her to look at the screen to show her that the register was still in bank card payment mode, and their card did in fact not go through. She then finally understood what had happened and walked out to the parking lot to find the customer, but they were literally long gone. She let the customer get away without paying, and they basically got a bunch of stuff for free because of her. Now you might be wondering how she didn't notice, but this cashier spends most of her time reorganizing, and that's what she was doing when the customer was paying, and I honestly hope she gets fired for that. I've got to be honest, I simply can't stand her. She makes absolutely no sense. When a customer asks for balloons, she'll pull the balloons out and start folding them and put them right back, and then start cleaning instead of getting the balloons filled up. She also talks way too much, and once she starts talking, she stops scanning items, and she's always the one doing the most. A customer will purchase a card and she will ask them how they want it back. She'll ask them, oh, do you want it in a bag? Do you need one bag and place that other bag in another bag? Do you even need a bag? I mean, who's the card for? And then she'll just rattle on and on about this person's business. But other times, she would just rather sit in the bathroom watching videos than cashiering. When she is scanning items, she treats it like a project and has to figure out which items should go with each other instead of just putting them in the bag. I'm honestly so exhausted dealing with her, and I really hope I don't have to deal with her any longer. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I completely relate with pretty much all the things you're describing here because this does sound incredibly annoying. But for me, the fact that she literally let people run out the store with items after they definitely didn't pay and refused to listen to you when you were trying to train her, like that for me is like absolutely grounds for being fired, which means I'm right there with the original poster. Having someone like that running the cashier is not a good idea, and in my opinion, they absolutely have to go because this is unacceptable. My entitled friend literally chews my ear off every single day about her problems. But after dealing with her mistreatment for so long, I eventually put my foot down and decided enough was enough, resulting in me blocking her simply because she was becoming so toxic. Here's how it all went down. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I have a 16-year-old friend who've I known for about 4 years when I lived in Canada. We're both 16 years old now, and I moved back to Korea about 2 years ago, so I haven't really seen her ever since then. As time went by, we kind of ran out of things to talk about, and these days I've been really busy studying because I'm preparing to take Korea's university entrance exam, so I don't have much time to contact her. Even though I've been busy, I still think about her a lot. Whenever studying gets hard, I remind myself that I want to see her again someday, and that just really gives me strength. But she really started having issues with me. She told me I was lying about studying and just pretending to study while actually playing games instead. And that really hurt me because I was working hard just for her. I'm trying to improve myself for both her and me, so hearing things like, "Oh, you don't even study," or even her asking why I'm lying about studying made me so angry. I mean, how could she say that to someone who's genuinely studying for their future? On top of that, she talks to me like she's trying to teach me or like prove me wrong all the time. Whenever I say something slightly off, she literally asks AI if I'm wrong and then mocks me about it. And that made me lose so much respect for her. But then there was this catfish incident. I rarely post selfies, maybe like once or twice a month on Instagram stories, but one day she saw my photo and called me a catfish, saying that I look totally different in real life. Now, I was furious when she said that, but I just held it in, and I chose not to respond even though I saw the message. She also got mad at me for not posting selfies on Snapchat anymore. I used to post my face for the Snapchat streak, but lately I just send random pictures like my wall or my figurines or some drawings, because I don't feel like taking selfies every single day. Then she got angry and said, "Well, why don't you post your face anymore? You're pretty, why not show it?" And it's like, what? Whether I post my selfie or not is my choice. It's not something to get mad about. And honestly, she just treats me like her emotional trash can. Whenever she fights with her boyfriend, her parents, or friends, she dumps everything on me. I can listen sometimes, of course, but it became way too much. She always wanted me to take her side and agree with her, even when she was clearly wrong. She would say things like, "Right, I'm not wrong, right?" and basically force me to say yes. But people have limits, and she never even seems to notice that. She dumps all her problems on me almost every single day, and I always have to comfort and calm her down every single time when she tells me her problems. If I didn't answer her calls, she would say I was avoiding her or being a bad friend. But when we did talk, it would last for like up to 5 hours sometimes. I barely had time for myself or my studies because of that. And when I said that I needed to hang up, she would say something like, "Oh, 20 more minutes," and then just drag it out even further. And I'm not even kidding. Sometimes it would even last 10 hours. And if I ever tried to set up a boundary, she would give me an attitude to make me feel bad for it. One time, I told her I couldn't talk because my teeth were hurting. And for reference, I'm currently wearing Invisalign, but I hadn't worn it for like 4 days and my teeth were really sore. I just said to her, "Hey, I can't talk today, my teeth hurt so much." But instead of showing any kind of sympathy, she just immediately started talking about herself. She said to me, "Oh, I had 2 wisdom teeth removed once, and I just got 8 needles into my jawbone, and I haven't been able to eat properly because they broke my teeth with a drill and they pulled them out." And then she went on and on about how she went through surgery and how painful her experience was, and it felt like my pain just didn't even matter. Well, after a while, I started listening to her less, and it's not because I didn't care, but because I was just emotionally drained. But then something happened. She sent an Instagram reel about advertised bait to one of her friends, and that friend said it looked fake. She then started teasing that friend, saying things like, "Oh, you're wrong, you don't know anything," which is the same way she treated me before. So I said very gently, "I kind of thought the same thing too. I mean, it does kind of look like a bait ad." But suddenly when I said that, she got really mad. She said to me, "Why are you taking her side? You never take mine." "Well, fine, I won't take your side either." Well, recently she started bad-mouthing that same friend again, and I just couldn't take it anymore. So I said to her, "You know in life people lose friends and make new ones, right? You just have to learn from it and move on. I don't think I can help with this anymore, so please stop talking to me about her." But she said to me, "Okay, I get it. If you ever have anything hard going on, I won't listen to you at all." But the very next day, my hamster, who I really loved, got very sick. She had some really bad things going on, and after surgery, she developed sepsis. Basically, she was dying. Well, when I told my friend about that, she said to me, "Oh, you you wasted your money on surgery. And at this point, I was absolutely furious. I yelled at her, are you insane? Why would you say something like that about my one and only pet? Basically, a member of my family. I was crying at this point because my hamster was dying, and she just replied by saying, just buy another hamster. I mean, it's a freaking hamster. Come on. But I couldn't believe that this is how she was talking to me. I asked why she'd say something so cruel, and she said to me, well, you didn't take my side before either. Remember when you said that's just how life goes? I'm saying the same thing now. And you know what? That was it for me. I blocked her and I ended our friendship. But even after that, she never apologized. I told her, hey, whatever you're going through and what I'm going through are not the same. When someone loses a life, even a small one, what you should do is comfort them and not mock them. But even still, she blamed it all on me. So now I'm just left wondering, was it really my fault for not listening to her problems all the time? I mean, I know it's normal to listen to a friend sometimes, but constantly hearing about someone else's personal struggles and private issues until I'm completely drained is honestly super exhausting. What should I do? Oh man, consider this the greatest get out of jail free card you've ever received in your life. Someone said it best in the comment section, but dude, that is not a friend. This lady was a parasite and a complete piece of garbage. She didn't care about you at all. She just wanted some lifeless ear that she could chew off and tell all of her problems to without you ever disagreeing with her or receiving any kind of support from her herself. Like, what a terrible person. Like, seriously, think about it. When you told her that your hamster was dying, instead of being like, oh, I'm so sorry for your loss, that's awful, she instead decides to be like, oh wow, well, I'm just gonna say the same thing you said to me right back to you. As if she was getting revenge for like some kind of comment you made. Like, dude, that is so toxic, it's not even funny, and honestly, I'm kind of blown away that she did that. So honestly, you didn't do anything wrong, man. You did everything right. You tried to be a good friend, you tried to hear her out, but holy crap, she was absolutely full of herself. And even at the end of this friendship, she's still trying to like blame it all on you, and it's like, dude, she has no self-awareness. And that like really sucks in my opinion. So no, you didn't do anything wrong, and I would not worry about this for another second. My fiancé keeps betraying my trust after I've caught him twice now messaging other women, and at this point I simply don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I've been with my fiancé for about a year now, and for reference, we have known each other for more than 10 years. He proposed to me this summer, and we met each other's families, and he often said things like I'm his treasure, his win, and that he's so lucky to have found me. But from the very beginning, I discovered messages where he was flirting and sending sketchy messages to other girls, even going as far as trying to meet up with them. We broke up, but after some time apart, I decided to give him another chance. Now, things were good again, and we went on vacations together. We spent weekends at a cottage, and I really thought that we were moving forward. But then, recently, I checked his messages again, and it's here that I found out in August while I was away on holiday that he was once again sending sketchy messages to another woman. They exchanged explicit photos and videos, and basically went way further than would ever be acceptable. He then said to her, we're gonna have to stop if things get more serious between us. And mind you, this was like 3 days of doing this crap. When I confronted him, he denied it at first, and then admitted to it and said that he regrets it. He says he wants to stay together and make things right, but I just don't know if I can ever trust him again. To add some context, I have mental illness, and I'm currently in a depressive state, which makes this even harder to deal with, and I feel like I'm losing myself in all of this. I really need someone to hear me out. I can't talk to anyone about this because if we stay together, they will hate me just like last time. I still love him deeply, but I don't know if love is enough anymore. I wish we could be together and for him to stop doing this to me. I mean, how can he plan a future and kids together and then just throw it away for some quick attention like this? What should I do? Okay, I gotta be completely honest with you. If you stay with this guy, this is you basically saying, yes, I think it's okay that you're cheating on me. And I'm not kidding when I say this, that would be so stupid. Because your fiancé clearly has a fantastic hobby of messaging other women while you literally allow him to do it. Like, this is crazy. This is absolutely going to end in disaster and this guy cheating on you once you get married. Honestly, in my opinion, the first incident would have been like, no, we cannot stay together. This is not gonna work. So I know if I was in your shoes, and I can only speak for myself, if I found out that my fiancé was doing this, I would break up and never look back. There would not be a second chance here, because this is not only incredibly sketchy, but really messed up. This goes against literally everything that he says he wants from you, and in my opinion, just completely derails your entire life, and that's not fair for you. So hopefully this works out in your favor, and you're able to see that this guy is not a good person, because this really is incredibly upsetting. Am I the jerk for telling my friend to get a job and to pay me back after he literally has had nothing going on for over a year and a half? Because right now he is really pissed off at me, and at this point I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, for a bit of context, about a year and a half ago in July of 2024, my gaming friend group and I decided to do our first big meetup. For context, there are 6 of us in total, all of us guys around the same age, and this is our first time meeting in person. We decided that the place to meet would be in the city where 2 of us currently live. 2 people drove in, one south of us in the same state and the other in the state next door, while the other 2 flew in from other states. We have all known each other for about 10 years, and we have grown close over this time. And the friend in question here is someone I will call Chris for the sake of the story, who flew in from Texas. I met Chris back in the day playing Destiny on the PlayStation 4 through people at the time. We clicked almost instantly and have been very close friends ever since then. While growing up, we talked about our family hardships, our childhood traumas, relationship problems, our struggles, etc. So we've really knocked down quite a few barriers in and of itself. Now, when it came time for this big friend meetup, Chris was having a hard time getting a plane ticket because he had just been fired from his job and he didn't really have any money. So he asked me to spot him, and I gladly obliged because I didn't want him to miss something like this. So I paid for his $400 ticket and we all met up and stayed at my place for a week. Now, since people had travel expenses and had taken time off of work, and since everyone in the group is employed except for Chris, I paid for things like the groceries, some outings such as dinner, and an amusement park. But at times when we were trying to split the check, I covered Chris's end every single time because he didn't have the money once again. After the meetup was all over and we were saying our goodbyes, Chris told me that he would pay me back all the money that I covered for him. I said that he didn't have to worry about the dinner expenses or anything like that, especially while he was here. But what I did say is that I just need him to pay me back for the plane ticket when he can, and that there's no rush in getting it done. Well, fast forward to now, and Chris has yet to pay me back the plane ticket, and he has yet to get a job for over a year and a half. And this is all since the meetup. Last night I asked him about getting a job and paying me back, and he said that he can't find a job. He puts in like 300 applications and gets like 0 responses. He relies on his mom's car and has no money to Uber to a job, so I told him that he needs to straight up get his stuff together. I care about Chris and his well-being, so I gave him some tough love and I told him that he can't be living like this and that he needs to get out there and do what it takes to get a job. But every time I gave some kind of solution, he would say to me, "How am I supposed to do that with no car and no money?" All while continuously yelling at me. I don't even care about the money that he owes me, but it sort of sucks that I went so far out of my way for him and he can't step up the plate for himself. So honestly, am I the jerk here? Because I really just don't know what to do. No, you're definitely not the jerk, because honestly, this shows that you're a good friend. It shows that you care about Chris and you want him to improve his life. If I had a friend who just didn't say anything and was like, "Oh, whatever, do whatever you want," that would be a big indication to me of like, oh wow, this guy doesn't actually care about my well-being. And the fact that you're able to give him tough love, even if he doesn't like it, in my opinion, is a good sign that you're a good friend. So no, you're not the jerk, and in my opinion, I think Chris absolutely needs to get his life together, because currently he's got like nothing going on, and that is not fair for him or anybody else. An entitled Karen absolutely tries to get me fired from my job, as she quite literally complains about everything that goes on in our store. But eventually karma comes back to bite her in the rear end, as she herself gets fired for messing up in a way that absolutely was unacceptable, giving me the chance to finally get the last laugh. Here's how it went down. Okay, so earlier this year, we hired a new employee. She's around the younger side of the boomer generation, and for reference, we work at a tobacco shop. The problems all started with her complaining about how she was never told that she had to download an app on her phone, and try to throw a big fit about how strange it was that we needed an app. But here's the thing, I've had 3 different jobs that use an app login, or just have to have one in the first place. She then started to say that I wasn't doing any work, and you know what? At first, the job was believing her. Well, that is until I started going crazy on what lack of work she was referring to, and was taking pictures and timestamps of everything I was doing. I would even ask if she needed help, and she would just give me an unhelpful, "Well, I need help with everything. I mean, look around you." To which I would look around and see literally nothing looking out of place or dirty, which is funny because every other day she says that she has the flu, but still comes to work and just doesn't do anything because she's sick. She was flipping out every single week because of small stuff. One box wasn't perfectly straightened, or like the space wasn't exactly 8 centimeters from the other box. There was a speck of dust in the corner and she would lose her mind. If there was a single fingerprint on one of the many glass surfaces, she would also freak out. One time she blew up on me in front of everyone in the group chat because I didn't take out the trash last night, but the assistant manager manager told me not to that single day. Well, last week I come in and we're doing a shift change, and after I count my drawer and put it in, a customer walks in. This is a dad and the teenage son, and the dad says, "Oh, I forgot what vape my wife likes, but my son knows what it is." Now, I've got to say, this is just a really weird situation, and any of my previous jobs would decline the sale to err on the side of caution. And you know what? I do exactly that. I refused the sale because the teenager didn't have an ID, and he admitted as much. As I was talking to the customers to probably solve the problem, my boomer coworker just takes my cash drawer out, puts hers in, and then angrily huffs that she will do it, and then kicked me out of the transaction. In fact, I heard the teenager say things like, "Oh, I want this," or they're talking about the things they do and don't like, basically implying that yeah, he's buying it for himself and not for his mom. Well, after these two left, this lady started screaming at me on how I'm an idiot, how I'm so rude and so paranoid, and that there's no laws whatsoever against selling vapes to minors. I was more upset at how she was screaming at me and following me around the store, as well as how she took over my transaction. So you know what? I called my boss and I explained the whole situation, and they were really concerned with her behavior, especially how she kept going past this situation and said I apparently have a new problem every week, which is of course rich coming from her because she finds something wrong with me every single week. She also intentionally misgenders me just to try and get a rise out of me because she's bored and wants an argument or something like that. Well, they eventually talked to her, and guess what? She told a completely different story. She said the man was an elderly disabled man who can't walk and needed his teenage son there to help out, and apparently I screamed at them for no reason. But he was a perfectly healthy man who was walking perfectly fine and seemed about my age, if not a bit older, so basically in their late 30s. But then she changed it again and said I was screaming at them the moment they walked in. Well, I can thankfully say that she was eventually fired, which in my opinion should have happened way sooner than later. Holy crap, this sounds like a nightmare. I would hate working with someone like that. I can't stand people who come into the job and they're like, "Oh my god, this place sucks. Everything around here is awful and it's your fault." Because what they're really saying is, "Oh, I hate my job, this sucks, and guess what? You're gonna get the blunt end of my complaints no matter what." And that's not fair. This lady is like just trying to pick on you for no reason. And it's the fact that she was trying to come after your job and be like, "Oh yeah, this is your fault. Everything's out of order because of you and not me." When you're just the one trying to train her properly. Like, dude, get a grip. So yeah, this lady sucks, and I'm honestly really glad she got fired because she definitely deserved it. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Our slumlord that we were renting from tried to double our rent overnight, so we decided to get some petty revenge by leaving without giving him any notice. Here's how we did it. Okay, to start things out, we were renting an office in an old, decrepit building for many years from basically a slumlord. We were going month to month since the lease had expired years ago, and the landlord was too lazy to make a new lease. There were noisy, smelly neighbors, and the building was basically falling apart, and definitely breaking all kinds of building codes, I'm sure. But even then, we still put up with it because the rent was pretty low, and we weren't losing clients over it. Well, eventually, we get a text from our slumlord that he's doubling the rent, and we have to sign the lease before January 1st, which at the time was only like 24 days away. But he said if we're going to leave, instead of signing the lease, we need to give him 30 days notice. But it's like he didn't give us 30 days notice. Well, we decided then and there that we were leaving, but also that we were going to give him 0 notice. We very quickly found a lovely, well-kept office just around the corner, and we moved all of our stuff over there. We even took some of the decorative items that the previous tenant had left behind. Well, the slumlord was so lazy and never around that he did not keep track of anything like that. Now, we didn't leave a huge mess behind, but we didn't clean up either. Because guess what? There's no lease, so there's no way for him to even penalize us even if he wanted to. On January 1st, we texted the slumlord that we had vacated the building. And you know what? We never even gave him the key back because he was literally too lazy to even ask for them in the first place. Okay, I gotta be honest here, I think you guys got incredibly lucky. Because don't get me wrong, I think what you did is amazing, but holy crap, this could have easily backfired. Knowing my luck, if I tried something like this guy would probably like hunt me down and be like, "Oh yeah, you're in trouble now. You didn't give me 30 days notice, so guess what? I'm now gonna take you to court over this." And sure, I don't know like the specifics of the lease you signed, but like I would not be surprised if someone like this tried that on you. So yeah, I love this petty revenge, but also I feel like you got super lucky. And hopefully nothing like this ever happens again because this could be a living nightmare. My entitled cousin literally made me kick him out of my house after he stayed at my apartment for less than a week and had already gone through all of my groceries, had stolen my clothing, and has not agreed to do any of the things that he agreed to do when he first moved in, putting me in a situation that I honestly never asked to be in. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I let my cousin stay in my apartment for a week because he said he was having problems with his mom and got kicked out. Since I live close by and I stay alone, I just went ahead and I said yes. I work in corporate, so I'm out most of the day anyways. He then told me that in exchange for letting him stay, he would do the chores like cleaning and laundry, which sounded completely fair to me. But by the third day, I noticed that my groceries were almost gone. I'd just gone shopping before he came in, so I was confused about how everything disappeared that fast. Then on the fourth day, I came home and I saw him wearing one of my shirts. And this is not just any shirt, but the one that my girlfriend bought me. I wore it the day before and I left it in the laundry basket, and now he's wearing it for some reason. Well, when I confronted him about this, he said that he didn't bring enough clothes with him and that he didn't even have a decent shirt to wear since he was going out to meet his friends. Because he had already done the laundry, he figured it was fine to just take one out of mine and wear it. No asking, no permission, just his excuse that he needed it. And you know what? That was the last straw for me. I called my aunt and I told her to take him back because he was treating my apartment and my stuff like it was all his. I tried to help him out, but he acted like being my guest gave him free food, free laundry, and even free clothing, which is something I'm absolutely not going to put up with. Yeah, I don't blame you for doing that. Like, if I was in your shoes, I would probably do the same thing because this guy was definitely taking advantage of you. It also sounds like this is probably the reason they got kicked out. Like, seriously, they're not doing what they said they were going to do. They're taking all the groceries and now they're stealing your clothing. Like, dude, what's going on here? That's not okay. So yeah, I think you made the right choice because this sounds incredibly obnoxious. Am I the jerk for wanting my girlfriend to pay back money that I loaned her since I gave her $10,000 to buy a car that she wanted with the express expectation that she would pay me back? Because right now she's trying to act like she's blindsided by this information, and at this point I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, for a bit of context, we have a good relationship, but recently we have been facing one or two issues. We've also kind of realized our financial values are slightly different, where she's a lot more generous with her money, whether it's giving out gifts or how money is shared around her family a lot more than mine. However, overall, she finds it hard to save. But I'm like the complete opposite, and I'm more on the frugal side, which is very similar to my family, and I have been able to save a decent enough amount of money to try and buy my first house. Income-wise, we are also on somewhat different figures, and I earn roughly about 2 times as much as she does. Now, as for the issue with the loan, I have loaned her approximately $10,000 a little over a year ago to help her buy a car in which she really wanted. She had also somewhat fallen on hard times and couldn't have afforded the car without my loan. Well, fast forward to the present day, and she's been in a good job for about 8 months now. However, to me, it seems like she just doesn't have any intention of paying back the loan. When I initially loaned the money to her, I was very clear that it was a loan, and I would want the amount paid back at a later date, in which she enthusiastically agreed. And you know what? After 3 years of dating and planning a future together, I had the utmost trust in her. Well, after bringing the subject up recently, she's been saying that she's been blindsided. She thinks that since we're planning a future together and our money will be pooled eventually, she shouldn't have to pay it back. And this has really led me to question the different financial values that we have. I'm trying to figure out if I'm the jerk by still asking her to pay back the original amount that I literally loaned her over a year ago, because right now I just don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, first and foremost, you probably should have gotten this in writing in some way, because this is so uncalled for. Like, $10,000 is not a small amount. If you're gonna give that kind of money out, then holy crap, get it in writing that someone's gonna pay it back. Because otherwise, you're gonna be stuck with situations like this, where she's trying to pretend like she's blindsided and didn't know that, yeah, this is something she needs to give you back in the future. You know, the whole point of a loan. Like, what's going on right now? It's also alarming that she's trying to dilute this down to a thing where it's like, okay, well, we're gonna be married soon and have a life together, and our money's gonna be put together in a pool, so what's the point of paying you back? But it's like, dude, what are we talking about? This is so weird. This relationship could fall apart tomorrow. At the end of the day, this is still the money of the original poster that you have to pay back. So no, you're not the jerk here. I think you're asking something that is completely reasonable, and the fact that she's not willing to pay it back, in my opinion, is a big red flag. An entitled customer decided to get nasty with me over the phone after I was genuinely just trying to help them out. But since I had another job lined up and this was my last day on the job, I decided to do something that I've never done before in my entire career, where I decided to hang up on them and drop the line, putting them back in line with other customers waiting on the phone, where this jerk would be waiting on the phone for over 4 hours just to get to talk to another agent. And if I'm being completely honest, this was incredibly satisfying to do. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of context, my first job was at a large large international operations call center. I did not love this job, but I genuinely tried my best to be helpful and do it well. And this was a technical support account. It's also important to note that we were severely understaffed, and it was always back-to-back dealing with some kind of angry person. But to be fair, the service and policies were kind of crappy. This company acquired other small companies in the same line of business, so the transition was not that smooth either. On a normal day, the waiting time to speak with a representative was maybe about 3 hours. So again, I understand why people were upset, but it was not our fault, namely the agents who were just taking the calls. Anyways, I was not passionate about this position, but I couldn't afford to quit. So I started applying to other positions, hoping that I'd find a way out. Fast forward and I land a position with similar responsibilities, where the actual load was much more manageable, plus there's much better compensation and the opportunity for growth overall. The email offer comes in the middle of my shift, and I accept it immediately. Now I need to start this new job as soon as possible, so I quit on the spot, but I still commit to at least finish out the day. As mentioned before, I was used to talking with angry people, but I didn't take it personally, so I just did my best to help and de-escalate the situation. So this call comes in, and it's the classic one of them saying, "I changed my Wi-Fi password and all my devices disconnected. I want a technician to come and fix it right now." And it's like, okay, but before we send someone out, we were required to offer to help guide the customer on how to do it themselves. If they still insisted, we could dispatch someone if they really needed it, but we still needed to inform the customer that it would cost them some money. So I tell him just that, and he agrees to try and connect things himself with my help. Now at this point, I had already worked there for almost 2 years, so I really did know my way around things. And with that, I could really tell that this dude was just actually not trying, and he was just being really difficult. But I think to myself, okay, maybe he had a hard day or something like that. Maybe he's frustrated he had to wait so long and the service is crap. Whatever, it's my last day, so I'll do my best. It's also important to say that I've never hung up on a customer before on purpose, solely because I believe in treating others the way you would like to be treated. Well, this individual starts being rude to me, and normally we'd be required to give people 3 warnings and be allowed to hang up if there's no attitude change. But at this point, I was fed up. I looked at the queue of people in line, and it said that the waiting time was like 4 hours. So, surprise, surprise, and you can probably tell where this goes based on the title alone, I decided right then and there I'm hanging up. I mean, I had already quit. What else can I possibly lose? And I've got to say, it was oddly satisfying to me because I literally told him, "I'm sorry, I don't get paid enough for this." And then I dropped the line. And you know what? I think about that sometimes and I laugh, because that was pretty much the first and last time I ever got to do something like that. Oh my gosh, this guy's literally living my dream, especially when I worked in customer service. Like, dude, come on. Some customers or clients or whatever you want to call them, they literally suck, and this is like the way you want to treat them, especially if they're being irrational. And I totally understand where the original poster's coming from. The wait times are long, you're sitting there for 3 hours trying to get someone to help you with your Wi-Fi. I totally get it and I completely understand. But the second you come at me as if I'm just sitting here doing nothing all day, like, dude, I'm sorry, but that is not okay in my book, and that is completely unacceptable. So good for you for hanging up, because honestly, that had to have been incredibly satisfying, because that is something that not a lot of people get to do in their careers. My entitled mom thinks that she can be toxic all day without us being bothered by it. And after dealing with this for years, I'm honestly at my breaking point and I really just don't know what to do. Here's the situation that I'm currently in. I'm a 26-year-old female and I've been really struggling with my mom's behavior for the past couple of years, and it simply has only gotten worse. Lately, my mom has been very emotionally aggressive. She has her own version of reality, which is completely distorted, and she never takes responsibility for her words, like it's just never her fault. For some background, we have a small family business run by my father and now my brother. My mother helped build the company, but she never really worked full-time there. Instead, she would often go out shopping or meet friends during work hours. My dad never had an issue with this, especially now that my brother has taken over. She also never learned how to use a computer, so she has no clue what to do when a client makes a purchase. The only thing she's really good at is consulting clients, and that's about it. And this is where a lot of the negatives come in. She hasn't really had a goal in life lately. When we were kids, she was busy with us and our education, but after we moved out, she's had nothing meaningful to do during the day. She fixates on small problems and blows them out of proportion, turning them into a huge ordeal. She's extremely direct, so much so that she can't maintain friendships because she lacks diplomacy. She confuses being blunt with being honest. She's always been negative, but now it's out of control. She's constantly annoyed with my father and makes sure everybody knows about it. In her eyes, all of her life problems are his fault, despite having a very privileged life too, by the way. She takes constant trips that are sometimes expensive and far away, but even even still, she remains ungrateful. And honestly, I think my dad takes her on these trips just to keep her from bothering him. Her daily routine is exhausting to witness. She wakes up at 4 in the morning, spends hours on social media, then goes to the office just to drink coffee. By mid-morning, she naps for a few hours, claiming exhaustion from working so hard, or citing non-existent health issues. She wakes up moody, she complains, she bosses people around, and then she lashes out at my father and brother over trivial things. By the time the evening rolls around, she's back home, she does no housework, she spends more time on social media, and then goes to bed early, only to then repeat the cycle the next day. Well, my dad is frustrated by my mom's lack of discipline. She doesn't even do much housework, and anytime he suggests hiring external help, like a cleaning service, she simply refuses, claiming that she doesn't trust them. Most of my parents' arguments stem from housework, and eventually my dad loses his patience and starts yelling because he simply just can't take it anymore. But then she turns it around, telling everyone that he's extremely aggressive and controlling. As a child, she would speak badly about my father, which made me feel a mix of fear and reluctant respect for him. And later on, I realized that he wasn't as bad as she made him out to be. He's just a workaholic, while she simply just doesn't want to work in the first place. And now she claims that we've all teamed up with my dad against her just because he has the money. She also insists that other men take care of their wives financially and that my dad is the only one who doesn't. But in reality, she receives around $1,000 a month, which she spends on shopping, and yet somehow, it's still not enough for her. I'm honestly shocked at how someone can be so ungrateful for the life that she has. Whenever we try to confront her about her behavior, we remain calm and attempt to give her advice. But the moment we do, she just starts yelling and screaming, saying that we're all against her, and that we don't actually love her, and that we actually hate her. She'll then burst into tears, and at that point, it's impossible to continue any kind of conversation. We've been trying to convince her to see a therapist because her behavior is making everyday life extremely difficult. She creates drama over the smallest things and treats everyone with cynicism. I don't want to be around her, but at the same time, I can't just cut her off. I mean, she is my mother. The problem is that we can't even have a normal conversation with her. If we try, she just insists that she's different, but in her mind, that means that she's quirky. I've never heard her take responsibility for her words, even when she was extremely rude to me, my brother, or even clients. She always has some kind of excuse or justification. When confronted with advice or rational solutions, she either ignores the words completely or just responds with something dismissive like, "Oh, you can shut your mouth," or even throwing out insults. As a side note, my father isn't perfect and he does have his flaws, but compared to her, they're minor. Honestly, I'm worried that she's going to wear him down completely, and with the constant stress she puts him under, I feel like he might end up having a stroke. What should I do? Oh man, this really sucks because this runs deep, man. Your mom's clearly involved in like the family business or whatever's going on there. So it's not as simple as just like getting away from her and being like, okay, I'm gonna limit contact with this woman. Because obviously that's just not possible. Like you're gonna be rubbing shoulders with her pretty much no matter what you do. Especially if you wanna still work with them and like live by them, which in my opinion, it might not be a bad idea to like look at moving away or at least having your own space away from your mom. Because she just doesn't sound like a very happy person and she's clearly taking it out on everybody in the family. And that is completely unfair for you and pretty much everybody else. My ex treated my credit card like it was her own personal piggy bank, and she not only maxed it out, but she also tanked my credit score entirely, putting me in a situation that I'm still dealing with even to this day. Here's what happened. Okay, so this is from a while back, but I'm still paying for it, both literally and mentally. When I was dating my ex, things started out pretty normal. We were both broke college kids, splitting cheap takeout and stressing about rent. Then one day her car ran out of gas, and she begged me to let her just use my credit card for a quick $20 fill up. Now I figured no big deal, it was just gas, so I went ahead and I trusted her. But trust me when I say this, that was the biggest mistake of my life. After that one time, it became constant. Suddenly, she forgot her wallet every time we went out. If we grabbed dinner with friends, the check always somehow ended up on my card. At first I thought, okay, I'll just get paid back later. But when I brought it up, she would laugh and say, well, what's the point of being in a relationship if we can't share? And it's like, excuse me? Eventually, it escalated fast. She started ordering clothing online, random Amazon packages, even a weekend trip with her friends, all on my credit card. I didn't even know until I checked my account and nearly had a heart attack. And when I confronted her, she got defensive and called me cheap for caring about money. By the time we broke up, my card was maxed out. I had late fees and my credit score had completely tanked. She then moved on with her life while I was stuck with the debt. I had to work overtime shifts just to catch up, and it honestly took me months to get things under control again. But this is a mistake I definitely will not be making twice. Holy crap, that is so awful. Seriously, you have a credit card card, you got a girlfriend, and you thought you could trust her with it. And here she goes and acts like, oh, come on, we're sharing, we're in a relationship. Meanwhile, she's spending your credit card like crazy and maxing it out. Like, what a piece of garbage, dude. So in my opinion, let that be a lesson to anybody listening, dude. Like, just keep your credit card to yourself, and if anything, hand them cash. Because in my opinion, having your credit score tanked, all because of a soon-to-be ex-girlfriend, is simply not worth it, and it's only going to cause you a massive headache. My fiance gave away all of my K-pop albums that I've been collecting ever since I was a kid, with most of them being sold off on eBay or Mercari, as my fiance felt they were childish and I didn't need them anymore, as he made a decision for me that I was completely against. And now at this point, I feel completely betrayed, and I don't know if I should break up with him or not, because right now I feel very violated. Here's what's going on. Okay, I'm a 23-year-old female, and my fiance, who's 24, has been dating me for about 9 years, and recently we got engaged. During that time, I was majorly interested in K-pop. I still love it to this day, but not to the extent of the 14-year-old me. Ever since I gained interest, I started collecting albums. For those who don't know, typically K-pop albums include CDs, posters, randomized photo cards, and other collectibles that are related to a new album or a single release by the group or a soloist. I don't collect them much anymore as an adult, but I still find a lot of joy in it. Well, my fiance and I planned on moving in together after we graduate, which we both just did. He was helping me move out of my mom's house when he saw my box of many K-pop albums from like the 2nd to 5th generation groups. He then started talking about how his sister really liked the same groups, how I don't need these anymore, and how some of these could make us a lot of money and all this other stuff. I then explained to him that I would like to still keep them, and that a few of them were especially important to me because they were given to me by my late father. Well, after I finished packing up, we took the boxes out to the apartment we had rented and wouldn't start unpacking until the next day. Now, I had to work the next day, so I asked him to unpack everything while I was at the office, and then we would organize them together when I got off that evening. When I got home, I noticed everything was still packed except for one box, namely the box that had my K-pop albums in it. Now, I was confused, so I went to go look at it, and there I saw that none of my albums were in the box. My fiance wasn't home, so I called him and I asked him about it. He said that I didn't need them anymore and that it was childish. So he gave a majority of them to his little sister, and the rest of them he said he's selling them because he says some of these albums are worth like up to $500. And when he said all this, I didn't say anything and I just hung up on him. I cried for hours because one of the albums he gave away was the last thing my father ever gave me before he died. Not only that, but he gave away things that I've been happily enjoying for years. I contacted Mercari and eBay to see if they could cancel the orders and give me back my things, but so far I've heard nothing back from them. I feel like a loser being upset, and I've even contemplated splitting up with him over something like this. But as an autistic person, I found so much joy and passion in collecting K-pop albums, and they're really something that I'm happy with, and I really just want my things back. So am I overreacting here? Because right now I'm still incredibly upset. Okay, in my opinion, this is not someone I would ever want to stay with. You're telling me that your fiance made this decision for you, despite the fact that you told him, no, I want to keep him. Like, are you kidding me right now? This guy violated everything you literally just told him and decided, no, I'm going to do it anyways. You don't need them. It's childish. But it's like, dude, who are you to say what is or isn't childish? Because as far as I'm concerned, even if you don't like those things anymore in the way that you did when you were younger, there's nothing wrong with still collecting them and keeping them as like, I don't know, like collectibles that you might sell in the future. So this literally is a collection that, yeah, it's worth a lot of money, but instead of respecting that, this guy just walked all over it and said, no, I'm going to sell it because you don't deserve to have it. And that is a red flag I would never ignore. Like, for example, I used to play with Pokemon cards a lot as a kid, and I still have a lot of them to this day. Like, I've got them packed up pretty nicely, and I don't necessarily enjoy that as much now, but it's still a really important part of my childhood, and like, I really enjoy it. It's fun. Like, who cares? If my partner then turned around and said, oh, I sold all of them, you don't need that anymore, you're an adult, I would probably lose my mind and break up with her. Like, that's so uncalled for. And the same applies here. Like, I would never want to be with someone who's going to do that, especially over something that clearly has sentimental value. Like, that is so messed up, because this is a huge red flag I would never ignore, and in my opinion, you shouldn't either. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Would I be the jerk if I refused to pay back someone's share of a stay in an Airbnb that we all booked months in advance? Because after he bailed on our plans right before we're about to travel, I'm honestly left in a spot where I feel really bitter about this and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so me and a group of friends are planning a vacation. After we booked plane tickets, a friend of ours, let's call him Jack for the sake of the story, who we had invited previously and at the time said no, decided he actually wanted to come as well and book tickets. But he said he was going to be still doing his own thing swing and not join us for a lot of the stuff that we were doing, like specific cities we're visiting besides the country's capital. So the main 5 people continued having regular calls where we decided things about the trip and booked stays and tickets for all sorts of things. Jack was not participating in these because he said he didn't want to go to these other cities. When it came time to book the stay in the capital for the last week, one of us sent a message to Jack and asked him if he wanted to stay with us. He said yes, but didn't join our call, and when we asked if he was okay with the specific Airbnb, he said it was okay and then paid his share. Now, about 2.5 months later, which is also 2 months before the trip, he messages one person in the group telling him that he's changing his plans and doesn't want to stay in the place that we booked. When asked about the money, he said he would like his money back, but he guesses it's up to us. And for reference, it was about $60 per person. Now, here's the thing. We booked it being conscious of our budgets. Some people in the group are more careful with money. The specific Airbnb we picked would have the same price for 5 or 6 people. So if we were booking for 5 people, we would not have picked this one, and we would have gone with a much cheaper option. If we are to cancel the Airbnb, we would only get about half the money back. So canceling and scheduling another thing would be more expensive and thus not an option at all. Well, Jack did not address the group collectively, and he only messaged one guy, who I was with at the time, so I saw the entire conversation. Now, when Jack was asked why, he said something about changing his plans, like maybe he just didn't want to stay in that city the same amount of days that we did. And in fact, my friend suggested him staying with us just for the days that we were going to be in the city, and yet he still said no because it was too much paperwork. Now, the supposed paperwork in question is just a form that the Airbnb people requested us to fill in with a passport picture and some of our information, namely our names, address, etc., which is generally requested in any place you'd be staying in that country. So my friend questioned, how is paperwork the problem here? Because that literally would be taken care of in like 5 minutes just to fill it in. Jack then said something like, look, I just want to do my own thing. It's nothing against you guys. Now, the likely outcome is that we will pay the money to him, and I personally don't mind paying, but I don't know what could be the correct choice. I just wanted options here because honestly, I need to know. Would we be the jerks if we refuse to pay him back, especially this close to our trip? Because right now we're honestly confused and we don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna say this nicely. The second someone like Jack comes into the group and is like, oh, I'm gonna do my own thing, that's a pretty good indication that they are not reliable and they're not gonna be involved in anything you're doing. So there's no point in being like, hey, stay at our Airbnb for like a night, because then crap like this happens. 2 months before the trip, they're like, oh yeah, I want to cancel. I don't want to be in this group anymore. Sorry, I'm gonna do my own thing. And yes, of course I want my money back. Are you kidding? In most cases, like Airbnbs are not that easy to rearrange, and the fact that this whole thing is gonna like increase everybody's cost for it is really not fair. So yeah, I think the original poster has pretty much got it figured out. I guarantee you, you're probably gonna have to like pay for what he didn't want to pay for, and then everyone else is gonna have to chip in money just to like compensate, and that is so annoying. So no, in my opinion, I think you would be completely justified, but I know that it would probably cause only more problems than good, and that in my opinion is just not worth it. An entitled Karen demands that I take a different elevator for me and my dog because she is clearly afraid of dogs. But when I tell her too bad and that I'm gonna do it anyways, she actually tries to put her hands on my dog, as this Karen is notorious for kicking dogs that she doesn't like. And so I decided to get some petty revenge by placing bags of dog crap all over this lady's front door, sending a clear message that this idiot better not mess with me or my dog ever again. Here's how I did it. Okay, so I used to live in this 35-story high-rise condo. There were 3 elevators, and during peak times, the wait time for an elevator was like 15 to 20 minutes at 7 o'clock in the morning and at 5 o'clock p.m. I had a Labrador dog. It was well-trained and well-kept, but he had a series of vet visits after catching an infection that required regular bathroom trips until the medication side effects wore off. So, long story short, I was walking Bubba and picking up poop at least once an hour for 4 days in a row. Now, I live on floor 34, so taking the stairs takes a minimum of 10 minutes either way with no foot traffic, and Bubba, after surgery, definitely couldn't handle stairs. Now, I had one very specific neighbor who was afraid of dogs. I saw her visibly kick other condo owners' dogs to get them off the elevator, and I don't know if she had like a phobia or something like that, but honestly, it's not my concern. But one day I needed to get Bubba downstairs, and she had asked me to wait for the next elevator. Mind you, this is at 5 o'clock p.m., and I'd been waiting for like 15 minutes. But you know what? I told her to deal with it. I had Bubba sitting in the corner to try and be nice, but I saw her try to grab my dog. I then stood in between them as the elevator went down, and I said no, not a chance. And then I let Bubba do his business once he was outside. I bagged it up all before going back to my unit. And it's at this point I decided to get my petty revenge. At a critical juncture, I decided to keep the poop bags going forward, and I would tie them on her doorknobs or even place them outside of her door on the mat. And I'm doing this as revenge for trying to grab my dog and physically kicking other dogs. I know it's wrong, but I do not care. And by 8 o'clock the next day, there were 10 steaming hot bags of crap on her front door. They were generic white bags, and after that morning, I switched to black bags to avoid any condo board repercussions. And yes, again, I know it's petty, but come on, don't kick other people's dogs, especially ones that just had medical care done, just because you want a private elevator. It simply doesn't work like that, and you're definitely not going to treat my dog like that. Okay, I love this so much because this is fantastic. Like seriously, I understand people not liking dogs, but like holy crap, you're living in a high-rise full of people. You can't really expect to have not only a private elevator, but also not like run into some pets every now and then. And this lady was like kicking dogs and stuff. Like that's crazy to me. That doesn't make any sense, and I just can't blame you for wanting to get back at her. So yeah, I think this is funny. I think it's well deserved because this entitled Karen absolutely had it coming. My mother-in-law demanded that I get rid of my cat after she came with suitcase in hand for a surprise, unexpected, and uninvited trip to our house. But after I said no, she freaked out on me as she stormed out of my house in a way that I don't think I will ever forget anytime soon. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I'm 38 years old and I'm a structural engineer, and I live with my husband and our cat. Well, my mother-in-law showed up unannounced this weekend on Friday with her suitcase, calling it a holiday. She's always hated that I have a cat, but this scenario was completely unexpected. My mother-in-law can't stop visiting unexpectedly or even uninvited, and she's compared my cat to termites, mold, and even said that if you let an animal wreck your home, how can anyone trust you to build a safe structure? But I've worked for over decades to build my career as it is, and she reduced all of it to an insult over my cat, a pet in my own home. But here's where things get really weird. Yesterday night, she gave me an ultimatum. She said to me, "It's either me or the cat. If you really care about this family, you'll prove it by getting rid of it." And those were her exact words. But I told her that the cat stays. This is my home. You don't get to walk in and decide who lives here. When I said that, she screamed that I always need control and just locked herself in the guest bedroom. And this morning, she actually left without saying a word. My husband is stuck in the middle and I just can't get past the grudge. And for me, it wasn't just her dislike of the cat, but in reality, it was her trying to tear down my work, my stability, and my sense of family. Because this woman just shows up to someone else's house and thinks that she can evict their pet. And that simply just doesn't sit right with me. Okay, I gotta be completely honest with you, your mother-in-law sounds like an idiot, and I just can't believe that she's even allowed back in your home. Not to mention that your husband sounds spineless. Like, why is he sitting here letting this happen? What's stopping him from stepping up and being like, okay, you're not gonna talk to my wife like that, that's enough? Like, is he really gonna sit by and be like, oh, I don't know what's going on. I'm stuck in the middle, I don't know which side to take. Because this is an easy one. You take your wife's side and you recognize that your mom is being a weirdo, showing up to the house unannounced with a suitcase, trying to be like, oh yeah, I'm on holiday now. It's like, no, you were actually just leaving. You can't just come over unannounced. So good for you for standing up for yourself, and really, I hope she doesn't come back, because that entitled attitude has no place in anybody's house. Am I the jerk for asking my girlfriend if we can leave her parents' house, as we tend to stay way longer than we should, which takes away from our time to properly feed our dog? Because right now, I'm not sure if I'm crossing a line by asking, and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my girl's parents had her when they were a lot younger than my parents, so she has 2 younger siblings. And so, due to this, we go over to her house for all the holidays and just generally a lot more often. Her parents are also more attached to seeing her often, as she always lived close and never was far until she moved in with me. And by the way, all of this is completely understandable and I am for it. I want her siblings to know their big sister is always there for them. Anyways, we probably go out every other weekend or so for dinner, often from around 3 to 5, and end up usually staying for at least 4 to 5 hours, which is about when I start to get antsy and a bit tired. Tonight, I was honestly about to fall asleep on the couch, and I told my girlfriend I was super tired, and I asked if we could possibly leave soon. She said yes in a few minutes and then proceeded to have another drink, and then I look up and about 45 minutes have gone by. I was starting to get a bit upset as we had yet to feed our dog for the night, and I knew that if I didn't speak up, we would have been there for like another 2 hours at least, and I likely would have fallen asleep on the couch. I really like her family, but every time we go over there, it almost like she forgets that I'm even there, especially when her friends are there too. She'll maybe check on me every hour or so for like 30 seconds, and I'll go into the kitchen where she's hanging out far more often to try and engage with what she's doing. But usually it's not easy to be in these girl conversations for very long. I hate having to ask her to leave. I try to just let her know by being like, hey, I'm really getting sleepy and we still need to feed our dog, but I often find I do have to press it a bit, or I'll just genuinely fall asleep on the couch. Also, I have to drive home every time and we live 30 minutes away because my girlfriend doesn't have a license yet. She knows that she needs to learn, but it's honestly going really slow. Now, she never asked to leave when we're at my parents' house, but I feel like I'm always watching to notice if she's feeling tired or just isn't having fun or something like that, just so she doesn't have to awkwardly ask me. So am am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I just don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk. I think your girlfriend is just not paying attention to you, and that's not fair. And I totally understand what you mean. Like, you don't know these people that well. You're not friends with her friends, so you're like almost the odd one out. Literally just sitting on the couch being like, okay, when can we figure this out? Like, what's going on right now? And for me, the most bothering part of this is like, dude, you have a dog you need to feed. Like, that's a serious responsibility, and the fact that she's ignoring that is really alarming and not okay in my book. So no, you're not the jerk for asking to leave because you've got responsibilities you need to take care of. And she needs to realize that sooner than later, especially for the sake of your dog. Am I the jerk for not answering the door when my ex's mom showed up at my apartment unannounced? Because after she's pulled this stunt twice, where she's driven 9 hours just to see my children, I'm at a point where I'm very frustrated and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so this happened a couple of years ago. I have sole custody of my children, and my ex and his family live about a 9-hour drive away from me. One day at around 9 o'clock in the morning, there was a knocking on my bedroom window. I peek through the bottom of the blinds and I just see a woman's sneakers. So I peek higher and I make eye contact with my ex's mother, and all I'm thinking to myself is, what in the world is going on right now? The apartments where I live are not gated, so anybody can drive onto the property, just not go into the buildings without a key, which means my ex's mom couldn't knock on my door because she couldn't enter my building. Anyways, now that she's seen me, I change and get some clothes on, and I go out to see why she's even there in the first place. Now, the only reason why she has my address is because a few months back, she asked to mail some stuff for the kids, and I just dumbly gave her my address. When I get out there, she tells me that she was in the neighborhood. I then asked her why she didn't call me before arriving, and she said it was a last-minute decision. So I let her in and she sees the kids for just a little bit. When she leaves, I tell her that next time she needs to give me a heads up before arriving, and I'm not talking 10 minutes beforehand. I need at least 1 week's notice just so I know what's going on. And so with that bit in mind, this is where I might be the jerk. About 4 months later, she pulls the same stunt again. When I hear the tapping on my window, I know exactly who it is. I don't even bother looking out the window. She then starts calling me like crazy, and after the 5th time of her calling me, I eventually answer. She tells me to open up because she wants to see the kids, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm not even home, and why didn't you tell me that you were coming? I tell her that I'm 45 minutes away visiting my dad with the kids, and when I say this, she demands my dad's address, and of course I refuse to give it to her. I tell her that I have no idea when I will be home, and yes, this is all a complete lie. Anyway, she doesn't believe me, and she says that she thinks I'm home, and again says it was a last-minute decision, but at this point, I just hang up on her. And now I'm getting text messages from my ex demanding that I let his mom see the kids. But I just tell him exactly what I told her. I'm not even home. Well, imagine my surprise when I hear the police banging on my door a few minutes later. But of course, I don't answer the phone. And then, like clockwork, I get a call from a random number, which is the police officer in question. He's there to perform a wellness check because my ex's mom hasn't heard from me in 3 days, and apparently she's extremely worried. Also, according to him, it's illegal not to answer the door when a police officer knocks. I then tell him that she is lying. I just spoke to her on the phone and she showed up unannounced. I also told him that I made it clear to her not to do that again, and that I'm out with family and that I don't need to come back just because she showed up unannounced. She is my ex's mom and I don't have to talk to her. Well, after that phone call, I get a text message from my ex calling me a jerk and how hard it would have been to let his mom see the kids when she drove all the way there just to see them. Now, I really want to make one thing very clear. I don't mind her visiting. I don't mind her being around my kids, but I can't stand her showing up unannounced and demanding to see my kids just like that. It feels like she's on some kind of weird power trip, and I am not in favor of this. So am I the jerk right now? Because honestly, I don't know what to do. Okay, first and foremost, holy crap. This lady called the cops all because you wouldn't answer the door. And I've also got to say, I don't know what country this person's from, but in America, you absolutely can ignore a police officer knocking at your door. You don't have to answer that. That's absolutely your right to ignore them and be like, no, I'm not answering it. Like, I'm sorry, this is America where I'm from, and you absolutely have every right to deny them entry into your house or to even acknowledge their existence if you feel you need to do that. Just wanted to put that out there as a sidebar because that part really pissed me off when this cop was trying to be like, it's illegal not to answer the door when I'm knocking, because it's like, dude, that's not even the case. What is he talking about? But what's more alarming in my opinion is the fact that the mom literally weaponized the police against you. She tried to be like, oh, do a wellness check. I haven't heard from her in a while. Meanwhile, you literally have a phone record that says, yeah, I talked to her earlier in the day. She's insane. Like, think about it for a second. This lady's driving 9 hours to suddenly see the kids out of nowhere, and she doesn't even go through like typical means to make that happen. She's knocking on the window like a creepy person and being like, oh, please let me in. I want to see the children. It's like, no, I want to see you get away from my property. So no, you're definitely not the jerk here. Your ex's mom is crazy, and the fact that anybody's taking her side is just baffling in my opinion, especially when she's calling the cops for illegitimate reasons. Today, I resigned during a big meeting with a huge client after spending years of being underpaid and overworked, putting me in a situation where nowadays my career is entirely popping off. Here's how it happened. Okay, so some years ago, I worked at a digital agency who was actually a big player in the national scene. It was me who was responsible for maintenance and availability for software used by our core clients, and I ran the team who did the same for other clients. Year after year, I got denied raises or got a pay raise that was just laughable. I asked so many times for a partner or a sidekick as I was drowning in work, but they didn't feel the need as I was able to still keep it running while I was simultaneously running myself into the ground. Well, eventually, here comes the 6-month performance review, and yet again, I voiced my concerns about my well-being and financial situation, and yet again, I was denied anything. But unbeknownst to them, I was offered a position at a competitor, granting me better pay and better workloads. After the performance review, we had an in-person meeting with the second biggest client for contract renewals, and as I was responsible for maintenance, I was also included to give my input on the conditions and pricings. During that meeting, I was reading the offer which my manager saw, mailed the competitor I accepted their offer, got the contract in my email within 5 minutes, and digitally signed it within 10. I then mailed human resources, my manager, and some executives my resignation. And fun fact is that all the executives that I mailed were also in the meeting itself. Well, it didn't take long for faces to turn red with anger because they literally paused the meeting. I got pulled apart and got questioned about what I'm doing, but then I explained my side of the story, and I was met with utter disbelief. My manager and human resources got chewed out, I got better pay and better working conditions at the competitor, and the client renewed their contracts that year, but left the year after because of inadequate maintenance and the company not being able to meet like 99% of the uptime. But I can honestly say that my career is now popping off. My old employer is downscaling business because of the harsh market, and honestly, I don't think I've ever been happier in my entire life. Okay, this takes some serious guts, dude. Like, the original poster is brave beyond recognition because there's no way I would ever feel comfortable doing that. Like, this guy literally went out of his way to do this in the middle of the meeting, sending off an email saying, hey, I'm quitting, by the way, only to then have everybody look up and be like, what are you doing? Which is like the perfect opportunity for you to be like, oh, finally, I get to get back at these people. This is exactly what I wanted. So truly, this was a great way of handling this because your manager and human resources absolutely deserve to get the blunt end of a stick, especially for overworking you and underpaying you for so long. Like, you do not deserve that, and that is absolutely unacceptable. My psycho fiance gambled away my grandmother's engagement ring that my mom gave to him so that he could propose to me. Things were so bad that he actually lost the ring playing poker with his friends, and then had to spend weeks gambling with his friends just to get the ring back. And now that the truth has finally come out and the lies have stopped, I'm seriously reconsidering everything, because this feels like a huge betrayal of trust and I just simply don't know what to do. Here's how it all went down. So I've been with my boyfriend, now fiance, for about 3 years now. He's wonderful in a lot of ways. He's kind, attentive, he makes me laugh, and we've been talking about marriage seriously, and I knew a proposal was coming because my mom accidentally let it slip that he asked her about my grandmother's ring. It's a family heirloom, a delicate diamond band that has been passed down for 3 generations, and my mom gave it to him to hold on to until he proposed. Well, fast forward to last weekend in July, and he goes out with his buddies for poker night, which is nothing unusual, but he came home late one night and I noticed something shiny in his pocket when he threw his jeans in the hamper. Well, I pulled it out, and to my absolute shock, it was my grandmother's ring. I confronted him right then and there, and he admitted he's been bringing it to poker nights for good luck. He said it started as a joke. I mean, his friends called it the engagement talisman, but then he swore it actually helped him win, and he promised he never bet it, but just instead kept it in his pocket. We were able to work it out over a few weeks, and he promised he wouldn't do it again. He even stopped going to poker weekly, and now only goes like once a month. About a month or so after this, he finally proposed with my grandmother's ring, and I said yes. Then came the engagement party. We're celebrating everything is perfect. That is, until one of his friends makes a joke about how my fiance almost had to propose with a Cracker Jack ring. When I heard this, I froze. And when I pressed him later, my fiance finally admitted that months ago, he actually did gamble the ring and lost it. And he only got it back after weeks of playing until he finally won it back. So not only did he risk my grandmother's heirloom, but he lied to me when I confronted him. He let me believe that we had worked through it when really, he was hiding the worst part of the story the entire time. Now I feel like the proposal itself is tainted because all I can think about is how that ring was sitting on someone else's poker table. Right now, I've gone to stay with my mom for a bit, and I gave her the ring back because I don't feel comfortable wearing it anymore. And I told my fiance that if he still wants to marry me, he needs to propose again with a different ring or else it's over. He says I'm being dramatic and ruining a good thing over one mistake, but I can't shake this feeling that this was more than just a mistake. It was reckless, disrespectful, and very dishonest. So am am I overreacting by making him get a different ring? Or is this a fair boundary after what he did? What should I do? Okay, I don't even know what to say. This is crazy to me. This actually is insane. Like, this guy gambled away your grandmother's ring, you know, the family heirloom he was supposed to propose with, and then had to spend several weeks just to win the ring back. Like, holy crap, is that not a big red flag? Like, there's just no good excuse for that. Like, this guy's reckless. And the thing is, he didn't just gamble it, he lost the ring, and he had to earn it back by gambling more stuff. And I don't know about you, but that's like something I would never be able to ignore. Like, I really feel like that's a distinct look into your future, and that is crazy to me. It's also deeply upsetting and very disappointing because the barrier of entry here is really easy. Don't gamble the family heirloom that's going to be on your wife's finger. Like, what are we talking about right now? Your fiance sucks so much. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would be calling off everything, dude. I would be pumping the brakes and reconsidering this entire situation because I'm serious. What your fiance did is messed up and there is no good excuse for it, no matter what he says or whatever kind of excuse he comes up with. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not wanting our friend to ever come back to our house after he quite literally ate everything that we owned after we had him watch our house while we went on vacation? Because right now my husband's saying that I'm overreacting, but I'm honestly still pissed off about this. And I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, so my husband and I live abroad. And earlier this year, a mutual acquaintance of ours, who we will call Kevin for the sake of the story, reached out saying that he'd been scammed with an apartment rental and now had nowhere to stay. At first we only offered a weekend, but he was polite, he was helping around the house, and he seemed really grateful. So we ended up letting him stay the full 20 days that he asked for. Well, during that time, some things really just rubbed us the wrong way. He never bought groceries, and multiple times he pretended he was going to pay, but instead just forgot his wallet. Or he claimed he could only use Apple Pay, which is not accepted at our local supermarket. He would also eat way more than his fair share. Like once my husband and I shared half a pizza, and he just literally ate the entire other half without contributing to paying for it. But even still, we feel bad for him, so we just kind of let it go. We stayed friendly, and a few months later, we were planning a 17-day trip. Since he was struggling with rent, we offered him to stay at our place in exchange for taking care of our dog. I even wrote a Google document with instructions for the house, the dog care, gym access, etc. I also told him that he could eat anything that was going to expire. Stuff like fruit or vegetables or yogurt, you know, stuff like that. Well, when we came back, absolutely everything was gone. And I mean everything. The entire fridge, the freezer, the pantry. He finished off 2 jars of jam, a jar of peanut butter, a giant Costco bottle of oil, the condiments, the rice, any snacks, any of the cheese that we had. Even my husband's supplements were all gone. He completely destroyed a ceramic pan. He consumed things that usually last like 6 months in just 2 weeks. And I honestly suspect he might have just taken stuff with him because it's insane how much was missing. Now, the only time I confronted him about this is to ask him to replace the pan, which he even mocked me about when I said this. He said to me, "It's just a pan. Why are you making a big deal out of this?" And truly, in that moment, I felt deeply disrespected. Now he keeps texting me, acting like nothing happened, and somehow wants to hang out. But I told my husband I don't want him in our home ever again. My husband says I'm being too harsh, and if he wants to stay friends, that is his choice. But I feel completely taken advantage of and disrespected. So am I the jerk for not wanting to see this guy ever again and refusing to let him come back into our house? Because right now I'm very, very pissed off. Dude, if I trusted someone with like watching my house while I was gone, and they just completely slammed through like 6 months worth of food and pretty much everything, I would probably tell them, look, I can't be your friend anymore. This is some crazy behavior. I'm sorry, but this is just not working. Or even just ghost them entirely. Like, this is so dumb. Like, this guy even took like the husband's like protein supplements and like other stuff like that. Like, I'm surprised he didn't take the light bulbs out of the ceiling as well. Like, dude, what's going on right now? And no, it's not just a ceramic pan. It's your ceramic pan that this guy literally destroyed. So no, you're not the jerk because this friend absolutely sucks. Am I the jerk for calling in a welfare check on my husband after he didn't respond to me for the weekend while I was on a work trip? Because right now he's saying that I blew things completely out of proportion and I'm not sure if I made a mistake. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I was out of town for a planned work trip over the weekend, which is something I do on a quarterly basis for my job. And my husband stayed home with our son, who's 4 years old, for a boys' weekend. They dropped me off at the airport on Friday evening and I checked in with them when I arrived to say goodnight and to let them know that all was well. On Saturday, I sent my husband a good good morning text, and I asked how our son was doing because sometimes he struggles with sleeping. But here's the thing that really started all the problems of this post in the first place. My husband didn't respond. So I went to the planned work events and I sent another message a couple of hours later, and when I still didn't get a response, I called him up, but still I got nothing. I sent a few more messages throughout the day and even texted his brother to check on them, but his brother also said that he did not respond to him either. Well, by that evening, I was pretty concerned as I still had not heard anything. So I ended up calling the hospital to see if anything had happened and even checked to see if there was any accident reports. I tried contacting the neighbor I have a number to, but they were completely unavailable. So I decided to call the cops to do a welfare check. When the police showed up, my husband and son were at home, and he said he was not answering his phone because they were watching TV and playing games all day. But I just don't see how he couldn't even send one text message the entire day just to let me know that things were good. He says I blew this completely out of proportion and should have waited until bedtime, as he was going to have my son call me then anyways. And for reference, my husband is against using location tracking apps, so there was no way for me to know where he was and if everything was okay unless he told me. The police chalked it up to a misunderstanding, so legally nothing more will be done, but my husband's upset with me for undermining his parenting abilities. And now I'm wondering if I'm the jerk for having a welfare check called on him because I'm honestly not sure if I made a mistake. Okay, honestly, with all things considered, my gut instinct is to say, whoa, wait a second, why are you calling the cops? Your husband's an adult, he can take care of himself, etc. But the fact that there's a 4-year-old son involved, oh yeah, no, you better respond to that text message. So to that extent, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think this was the last ditch effort to be okay, something's going wrong, he's not responding to anything I'm saying, I've got to get in contact somehow, so I'm calling the cops. I completely understand where you're coming from, and I don't think you overreacted, and if anything, this falls on your husband's shoulders because he easily could have messaged you back, but he chose not to. Am I the jerk for not installing a camera to help our neighbors catch their supposed stalker after they've gone on these delusional rants about someone messing with her property? Because right now, we really just don't want to deal with this lady, and yet she's still said that we're what's wrong with this world and that she's embarrassed for us and our lack of consideration. And right now, we're not sure if we're making a mistake by shutting her down, and we just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So my fiance and I live in this apartment and condo community, and we have a neighbor who we have at times wondered about her mental health and stability. On multiple occasions, we have heard her outside on her balcony, which is across from ours, yelling at someone. She has called this person a loser, a creep, threatened to call the police, and every time we look outside, there's nobody there. It happens at all hours of the evening and at night, and our units are situated so that if we look out of our balcony door, we can see straight over to hers. We have been in our living room watching TV when she started yelling and look over to see that absolutely nothing abnormal was going on. She finally stopped me one day and told me that she has a stalker who climbs up on her second-story balcony. She claims that this person disconnects both of her security cameras and even her Wi-Fi prior to climbing up there, and she says that he does not attempt to contact her or enter her property. I then asked her what he looks like and if she has any idea who he is, and she said she has actually never seen him, but she knows that he is there. She then asked if we would be willing to put a camera up on our balcony, pointing in the direction of hers to see if we can catch anything. Well, I told her I would speak with my fiance, but I did say that I just don't think this would be something he would be comfortable with. Well, fast forward a few months and she never really mentioned it again until the other night when she stopped my fiance while he was walking the dog just to ask him why we wouldn't put a camera up for her. I heard them start going back and forth and stepped outside to see what was going on. She basically thought that we were terrible for not looking out for her and could not believe that we would not do anything to help her out. We then asked her if she had spoken about this to the homeowners association or even her property manager about this since she does rent the unit, and she admitted that she had not. We then tried to calmly explain to her that we were not comfortable with essentially setting up surveillance on her property and taking time out of every day to send her any footage, and that if she really feels threatened, she needs to speak with someone who can actually do something about it. The conversation then ended with her telling us that we are what's wrong with the world and that she's embarrassed for us and our lack of consideration for others. So are we the jerks for admittedly not believing this stalker even exists in the first place and not putting up a camera? Because right now I really just don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, it seems like this woman is paranoid and she is clearly delusional because this just doesn't make any sense. Come on, man. She's talking about someone climbing up to her balcony and unplugging her cameras, but it's if that really was the case, then wouldn't the cameras pick that up? Come on. This lady's clearly got some problems going on, and I think not feeding into that is probably the best thing for you. But for me, there's also a twisted side of this where I'm oh yeah, I think I might just put up a camera secretly anyways, because the way she's acting is kind of crazy, and I think in my opinion, you might need some evidence if she flies off the handle, because she is acting a little bit too weird in my opinion. So no, you're not the jerk, but it wouldn't be bad to consider that just to watch her, because this lady's acting crazy and really weird, and I just would not trust her for a second. Am I overreacting for being mad at my boyfriend after he tested me by hiding my car keys? Here's what he did. Okay, so last night my boyfriend thought it would be funny to test how I would react if I couldn't find my car keys. I was heading out to grab some food and he secretly hid them behind the couch. I then ended up tearing up the entire apartment for like 20 minutes and was even on the verge of crying because I thought I lost them at the grocery store earlier. He finally laughed and said, "Chill, it was just a prank. Now you know that you should be more organized." And when he said this, I was honestly furious. I told him that's not funny, it's stressful, and he really did cross a line. But he thinks I'm overreacting and said, "Oh, it's not that deep." So seriously, I need to know, am I overreacting here? Because this still has me incredibly pissed off. Okay, I gotta be honest with you, if anybody did that to me, I'd be super pissed off. Like, this guy basically baited you and it was like, "Oh, I can't wait to watch you freak out because you can't find your stuff." And I'm willing to bet he's probably seen you get upset in this fashion before, and so he did it just to try and like take a jab at you. He did this because he wanted to make fun of you and he wanted you to feel bad. And I don't know about you, but that's kind of a red flag in my opinion. Like, sure, maybe it's not that deep, but like it was to you because it really made you upset. But even with that in mind, I don't think you overreacted, and I think you're completely within your rights to be pissed off at this guy because what he did really was a jerk move and you did not deserve that. My older sister is broke, depressed, jobless, and refuses to help out, especially while I'm shouldering the burden of handling my father's financial mess after he suddenly passed away not too long ago. And now, after all that's been said and done, I'm starting to wonder how to deal with my sister in the first place because her attitude is incredibly entitled. Here's what's going on. I want to start off by saying that I honestly just don't know what to do anymore. I'm in my late 20s and I'm a male and I am the younger sibling, but I've got to be honest, I'm the one holding everything together while my sister, who's in her late 30s, completely refuses to step up. Here's the situation I'm currently in. She lost her job 18 months ago, and ever since then, she's fallen into depression. She's racked up debt and absolutely refuses to even try to look for a job or get professional help. It is just constant emotional shutdowns, excuses, and victim mode. Then, 10 months ago, our dad died unexpectedly, and we found out he had gambled away nearly €250,000. On top of that, he left behind about 70,000 euros in debt, and the only assets left are like 2 properties worth like roughly 400,000 euros combined. Now, I've been handling almost everything with our stepmother. The paperwork, the debts, calls with the banks, the taxes, the lawyers, literally everything. And yes, I also work full-time. Most of my income is currently going straight towards covering the outstanding debt, just to try and keep things from falling apart entirely. Now, one of the 2 properties is a mess. Years ago, when he was drunk, my dad literally burned all the blueprints for the house. It was then rented out to squatters and neglectful tenants who destroyed the place. He did finally get them out about 6 months ago, but now the house needs major work to even be sellable. Not to mention that it's almost 250 kilometers away from where we live. And just take a wild guess as to how much my sister has helped out so far, because I'll tell you, she's done absolutely nothing. Zero. Not a single phone call or even a single visit. Absolutely nothing. Now, our stepmother wants to sell the house, understandably so, below market value, just to finally cover some debts and be done with it. But my sister refuses to agree because it's just not enough money, according to her, despite offering no solution, no help, or any kind of plan. And what does she talk about constantly, you might be asking? She says that she needs to go on vacation, that she deserves to finally get away because she's so mentally drained. She can't even go because of her dog and no one wants to take him. And by the way, she has 2 dogs. The first one has lived with our 80-year-old grandparents for years now because she couldn't take care of him. And then 4 years ago, she rescued a second dog from a kill shelter while already overwhelmed. And now she's complaining that she can't go on vacation because no one will take the dog. And you know what? Honestly, I just don't understand how someone could be so self-centered. I work full-time, I'm managing the estate, I'm financially bailing us out, I'm handling the house, the paperwork, the inheritance, all while she just wallows in self-pity and waits for others to fix her life. She says she knows I'm doing everything and that she's sorry, but there's been zero change, no effort at all, just more crying about how everybody gets a break except for her. But I've told her very clearly, there will be no vacation until she gets some real help. Therapy, medication, a job, a plan, something. She's got to have something going on. Vacation is not the starting point, it's the goal. If she finally steps up and takes part in fixing this mess and shows that she's taking her life seriously, then I would even consider helping her with her dog. But right now, I'm running on fumes. I'm drowning in responsibilities I didn't ask for, and I'm starting to resent her for how selfish and passive she's being, even though I know that she's struggling mentally. So has anyone ever dealt with a sibling like this before? Someone who just collapses under life and expects others to carry everything for them? How do you help someone like that without destroying yourself in the process? What should I do? Okay, honestly, first and foremost, I think the fact that your sister's trying to act like, oh yeah, I deserve a vacation, all while you're trying to like settle any kind of debt resolving your dad and like get his affairs in order that should have been figured out a long time ago, like that is all you need to know about the kind of person your older sister is, because that is crazy to me. Never mind the fact that she hasn't had a job in 18 months, but seriously, she is missing the point here. Your dad has passed away and it's time to step up and help out, not sit there and be like, man, what about me? I would love to go on vacation, but no one wants to take my dogs. And it's like, dude, talk about having your priorities messed up. You're not even doing anything to help out the situation and you're literally already lazy about it. So yeah, this whole scenario is really dumb in my opinion. I think this is just so stupid. And I think the way your sister's acting is honestly the most telling sign you can ever have in your life that she just doesn't care. And if I was in your shoes, that would really inform how I treat her in the future, because this is just completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my mom turn my guest room into her own permanent crash pad whenever she visits? Because at this point, she's treating my house like her own space that she can move into without having to compensate for anything that I have going on, completely disrespecting my space and ignoring any of my requests. And at this point, I'm not sure what to do because I'm being called selfish and saying that I'm abandoning her, and it's putting me in a spot that makes me feel really bad and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I bought my first home last year. It's just a small 2-bedroom house, and the second room is my office and guest room. Now, my mom lives about an hour away, and ever since I bought the house, she's been staying over more often. At first, once in a while, and then every other weekend, and now sometimes during the work week too. Last week, she showed up with a suitcase and asked if she could just keep some clothes here permanently since she's here so much. But then she said that she was thinking of spending half the week at my house so that she just didn't have to commute as much. Well, when she said this, I told her no. I said, look, I love you, but I don't want a semi-permanent roommate, and my space is my space. But when I said that, she got really upset and accused me of abandoning her and forgetting everything that she sacrificed just to raise me. And now, because of this, my aunt is texting me about how selfish I'm being, but I just don't think buying a house automatically means that my mom gets to partially move in. So am I the jerk for refusing? Because this honestly is really frustrating and I just don't know what to do. No, this is a weird request from your mom. I can understand her trying to be like, hey, I just don't want to commute as much and like maybe I could stay there more often. But if she really thinks she's going to stay there without any kind of like compensation of some kind, then she's crazy in my opinion, and she's just being super entitled. Like, think about it for a second. She's trying to be like, oh, I'll spend half the week here. That way I don't have to commute as much. And I don't know if this is her way of like weaseling her way into your house and moving in, but it definitely seems like it, and that's just not fair. Like, if she's going to be staying there so much, then like the first thought in my head is like, okay, you got to start paying for some of the bills of the house or like paying rent of some kind, because this is not going to happen otherwise. Like, that's what I would do if I was at least willing to do this. But also the original poster is well within the rights to be like, no, you can't stay here. I don't want a semi-permanent roommate. That's not okay. And I need my space. It also sounds like this house is very small. So it's like, yeah, I don't have room for this kind of stuff. So no, you're not the jerk for refusing. I think your mom is being super entitled, especially with her getting upset and then dragging her sister into this to try and be like, oh wow, you're being selfish. Because that kind of attitude is really weird, and that would only make me more resistant to allowing them anywhere near my house ever again. Thanks for watching. Subscribe down below if you haven't already. And also, please subscribe to Am I the Genius? I think you're going to love what they're making over there. It's a great channel and you should definitely check it out. Everything will be linked down below in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.